everyone, and welcome to Post Puroresu, the May 23rd edition. And I'm WH Park, and this is the second episode of May that you're listening to. And joining me is one of my rotating co-hosts, one of the regular people that's going to be in the chair with me in the years to come here at Post Puroresu, and that's Dylan Fox from the Eastern Lariat. Dylan, how are you?
I am so happy to be here. Also representing cagematch.net right now. I want to wave the flag if anybody has any, need for a good source of wrestling knowledge, results, things of that nature, occasionally insane ratings from some of our users. Cagematch.net is your hookup. So I want to put that out. But yes, Eastern Lariat, my favorite show, me and Striga, he's also there. And, WH, I'm so happy to be on. Is this my first actual obviously we did one together before a long time ago and one with John. And after that, it's been a while since we've done an actual Post Puroresu together. Our last show was the Kawada show that we did for Long and Winding Royal Road, which is one of my proudest pieces of work I've ever done.
That was amazing. I was so glad that you did that with me. No, I think I consider you kind of like the pioneer of like the non John Pollock co-hosted episodes of Post Puroresu.
Ah, man, that's awesome. I'm so happy to be on. You're a great friend regardless of wrestling. We don't even have to be recording to have hour-long conversations and stuff at times. So I can't wait to do this show, and hopefully all the listeners enjoy it too. I love getting out here to be in a little bit of a different audience, So like I said, we got such great feedback on the last show. Hopefully we can get some very similar ones to this show. It's a big show. We've got a lot to talk about. It's a crazy time. I don't know why you called me in at this point with May, because we have some just stuff that I never thought we'd be talking about even a week or two ago, let alone a year ago whenever I was last on with you and John. So I am so amped up and psyched to get this going.
Well, before we get to like our topics, and I want to also endorse Cage Match. It's basically used by anyone who's anyone in like wrestling, like podcasting or journalism. Hey, how many matches did Gary Albright have in 1993? Got to go to Cage Match.
You can search it up. It's got everything. You can even break it down into like singles matches and stuff. And I didn't know that for a long time, or I guess I thought it was possible. I never knew it. But once I started to actually edit stuff and put in usually really non-important shows from certain companies we might not be talking about on the show, actually, now that I think about it. But so unimportant, we will not talk about it.
If you need to know how many singles matches Mayumi Ozaki had with Bull Nakano, you can find that out over at Cage Match.
Absolutely. Search different workers, singles matches, everything. And I like to think the Eastern Lariat is like the Japanese pro wrestling podcast extension of Cage Match in a lot of ways, because sometimes I'll just break out stuff that nobody knows what I'm talking about. Like I said, again, very unimportant things in the grand scheme of things. But if you do know, it's like an Easter egg almost. And hopefully we can have a few of those on this show too.
Definitely. So, like this past Monday, I was like thinking about this show, and at the time I was thinking, what the fuck are we going to talk about? Nothing's really happening in Japanese wrestling, really, like in the week, in the like these last weeks of May, and then I think Wednesday happened, and then this morning, and I'll just say to be, peek behind the curtain that we're recording this on a Saturday night, though it's going to be broadcast on Sunday morning. That I started getting messages from people about what's happening in New Japan, which we'll talk about in a second. But I was just like, wow, there's so much to talk about.
It's crazy how that happens. So that's the way things work. I remember on our last free episode of Eastern Lariat, somebody, or I think it might have been me and Striga asked me something like, what do you think is going to happen a year from now in the Champion Carnival? And I'm like, man, that's impossible to know, because the world of Japanese wrestling moves so fast, even compared to, normal wrestling, every wrestling everywhere, in U.S., Japan, Mexico, it all moves fast, especially right now because we're in such a weird time. But the Japanese wrestling world things can change so fast on a dime. Companies could change hands, people could get fired unexpectedly, somebody could jump ship, whole companies have split off. I was telling you in the DMs, I was doing a lot of research lately on the super old school of Japanese wrestling in the 60s and 70s, and it's stuff that will blow your mind if you read about it. But it's like stuff like that could happen, and you wouldn't even think about it a month before, and it could happen. So the Japanese wrestling world is so crazy. And here we are, not even a month, not even a week. Monday, you were thinking, man, this is going to be a cold show. I got to talk to Dylan. That's going to suck. This guy's got no charisma. I don't even want to talk to him. And then you realize that, wait, he is the one I need to call because things have gotten so crazy and things have popped off so much. It's like, I feel like Spider-Man in the Avengers right now. I'm not a main character in the Post Puroresu universe, but when things get hectic, who do they turn to?
Well, no, you're kind of like an honorary member of the Post Wrestling family, I think.
Much like Spider-Man.
No, he's a full-fledged member of the Avengers.
Oh, okay. So I guess I'm kind of like an honorary member. Okay. Who would that
be? In the Avengers?
Yes.
I don't, maybe Captain Marvel?
Can I be somebody else?
You have someone else? I don't know who the honorary member is. I guess okay. Maybe the Winter Soldier.
Okay, that'll work. I'm down with that. I love the Winter Soldier, so I'm completely for this. I am the Winter Soldier of the Post Puroresu family.
That's right. Someone said to me, John Cena over at Shot in the Dark. He was like, WH, you're the Prince Paul of Post Wrestling, and I said, no. I'm the KRS-One of Post Wrestling.
Ooh, that would make you a super legend on this. I still listen to like the Bridges Over, every once in a while. So KRS-One, BDP, right. That is my jam. I love that whole era of hip hop. So if I'm down with this. I'm super into this.
Me and Sino just went into like this trading like images. He like put up, I don't know. Who the fuck did he put? Some dude with like Slick Rick, guy with an eye patch, right?
Yeah, eye patch. Yeah.
And then I countered with like Redhead Kingpin.
Okay.
And Big Daddy Kane.
That was gonna be my next guy of that era. Awesome.
Because you know why? Because I get the job done.
Nice.
So, but anyways, let's get to the show. And one of our, the main topic we're gonna get to first is we're gonna commemorate the anniversary of a terrible day, but like we want to kind of celebrate the person, and that is Hana Kimura. And I want to shout out to you and Striga last year. You guys did this amazing tribute show over at the Eastern Lariat, and if you really want to hear like some in-depth analysis and in-depth like history of Hana, like check out the show that Dylan and Striga did. I know both you guys. I no offense to you, Dylan, but I think it's maybe more so even with Striga. Like there was such like admiration and love poured out from both of you on that show, but I knew where it came from because you guys would talk about her on your shows when she was active and still alive, and just such great admiration for her work. And I just did a show with Braden Harrington and Davey Portman over on their feed, the Up Next show. We did Best Match Ever, Hana Kimura, and I want to thank Dylan for helping me select some of the matches that we watched on that show, and it was a really fun. And I just got to remind myself like, wow, she was an amazing worker. She was really underrated and such a charismatic personality, but such an incredible, really underrated worker. I don't think people talk about what a great worker she was, but she was actually great with submissions and her striking.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much. That show was one of the more personal ones that we did on our show, so I really appreciated that. And yeah, Striga was a huge fan of Hana Kimura's from the start, so I wasn't surprised that he took it that way, and so many people were affected by it. With me, I honestly at first, I was a huge fan of her mom's more than her in terms of as a worker for a long time, but later on in her career, especially, I think the match I showed you on there, I don't want to spoil it when it comes to your show, obviously. Best Match Ever, obviously, on the Up Next feed. Big fan. I can't wait to listen to it. But around that time, right, 2018 or so, something really clicked with her, I feel like. And when she went into Stardom full time, you could see that she was really growing, and the star potential was always there. The charisma, the it factor, and all that was always there. So to see her grow into the great worker that she did become, and all of the good matches that she had, and I was so happy to do that show last year. And I'm not happy like, but just I was happy to do it in that show. I really wanted us to focus on her career because I know that her death was like going to overshadow it, at the end of the day. And I didn't want that. And we did our best to fight against that because there was so much to her as a person, her career as a wrestler. There's so much there, and it's hopefully everybody can continue to keep her memory going, keep her spirit alive, because that is one thing that the fans have not let her die fully. They keep her alive, and not to be like cheesy or anything, but they really keep them alive in all of our hearts. You go to Twitter every day, I see something about Hana Kimura on Twitter from somebody, whether it's a memory, a photo, flowers, something like that, and it's just amazing. I can't ever remember anybody, because in the wrestling business, a lot of people that were legendary figures passed away for some reason or another. But this one really struck people's hearts, and her memory has been kept alive, and that's something that I hope she's proud of.
I think one of the really cool things about her when she was alive was that because of her kind of situation as a person growing up in Japan as being of mixed heritage, I think a lot of people could relate to her because there was always this kind of outsider kind of person, per aspect to her character that I think people latched onto. I think that's one thing I try to bring up with her kind of rivalries and relationships with some of her more famous opponents like Asuka, not WWE Asuka, but Asuka, who's also known as Venny, and with Julia, is that I think those two wrestlers can relate to that idea because of their own situations, not necessarily being the same as Hana Kimura, but kind of trying to fit into the larger Japanese society. But I think she spoke to a lot of people who might who are Japanese, fully Japanese, that are oh, I don't fit in, but they can relate to Hana that way. I think that's what her last incarnation as the leader of Tokyo Cyber Squad kind of represented. I kind of liken it to when she came back from Mexico, Dylan. I kind of liken what happened with her and her evolution, and kind of how fans reacted to her, as opposed to what her character before was. That it was similar to me, what happened with Tetsuya Naito. Before he was Stardust Genius, then he came back from Mexico and he was the leader of Los Ingobernables de Japón. I felt like she was going to become the Joshi version of Naito in a way that people would just latch onto this personality, and it would just propel her to this level of stardom. No pun intended there.
I completely agree with all of that, and it was clear that they saw it too. This was somebody that was going to go under the radar. She was clearly on course to be the top star of the company. I would have put money on her being the next, top star, whatever you want to call it. And it's just a crazy thing that, it couldn't have happened, but she had so much to her. And like you said, when she came back from Mexico, it felt like she gained a lot of, the it factor was always there, and the charisma was always there. The look was always there. The star potential was always there. But when she came back, she changed up her look, changed up her wrestling style, and I was so impressed by her. I don't know what particularly she learned in Mexico, but whatever she took from it really let her grow. And you're right. I think a Naito type of star would have been possible. The whole Tokyo Cyber Squad aesthetic was so cool to the fans. Everybody really bought into that. With everything going on, unfortunately, it is the anniversary of that. But she really affected so many people. But it was her charisma and her star power that she brought to the table that it was going to be a surefire, huge thing for her. And I know that she probably she probably knew that too, that she had that star presence and that she was going to be that next star. And I think she took it so seriously, even when she was on Terrace House. One of the first things she said was like, hey, I'm on here because I want more people to know about wrestling. So her love for wrestling and growing up in the business, obviously, that is one great thing about her, is that, you hear so many stories of these guys and they hate the business or whatever. It took their parents away or anything like that. But with Hana, she loved wrestling. And I think that's so cool. And it really shone through in her, not just her performances, but how she talked, how she acted. And she was just a blessing upon this business.
Yeah, I don't know what she learned in Mexico per se in terms of in-ring, but what I think happened with her is like she got out of Japan and she saw like I think she was exposed to like a different side of the world in terms of like, hey, I'm actually like cool, like I can be me, and I think she brought that back. That's my theory, right? Like she came back with more confidence in herself and like the kind of like the freedom to just be the kind of like character, so to speak, that she wanted to be, like the kind of look that she wanted to do. Like being in Oedo Tai, she was kind of, oh, I'm going to be this ninja character, for lack of a better comparison, because like she had the tabby boots and she was the kind of like, styling of her costume was kind of to be like kind of, reminiscent of like, kind of a ninja or something like that. And being in Oedo Tai was like, kind of, passed down to her from her mother, because Kyoko Kimura was one of the wrestlers that started Oedo Tai, right? So I think when she escaped from that, she obviously like, left Oedo Tai very violently, turning her longtime partner Kagetsu, and then forming Tokyo Cyber Squad with like kind of like, like other wrestlers who didn't fit in some of the other factions, like Jungle Kiona, like didn't feel respected by other members of Stars. So she was really happy. And I think she grew as a wrestler and as a personality, Jungle, when she joined up with Hana, and as well as with Konami. And so I think that was a really important like group for those two, as well as with Hana. But the big thing with Hana is like that I can remember is I got to see some of her last matches. I got to see her team with Kagetsu in one of Kagetsu's last matches before she retired, and she went back to her Oedo Tai look. That was on January 3rd of 2020. That was at Shinkiba First Ring, one of the most intimate venues that you can watch wrestling in. And it's like she's not more than like at most, like there, I think I was on the side of the ring where Oedo Tai was, and then she's like, I can see her, like I could. Yeah, she's like 6 feet away from me, Dylan. That's like the furthest she's away from me for the most part. It's like, oh, that's really cool. And then I got to see her in the Tokyo Dome. She is part of the dark match, the Stardom offer match that it's never been broadcast. It's probably not going to be broadcast for a long, long time once they get the television rights for that thing sorted out. But like it was her teaming with Julia against Mayu Iwatani and Arisa Hoshiki. And you could tell like Bushiroad, who had recently had bought Stardom, was like, okay, these four are there are four musketeers essentially, right? If you were going to make the analogy with New Japan, it's like Hana was going to, well, I would like maybe like kind of like the main event scene of like New Japan of modern era. It would be like Mayu was going to be Tanahashi, in my opinion. Hana was going to be, I don't know, she was going to be Naito. I think Julia was meant to be kind of like the Okada character. I'm still figuring out like maybe Arisa was going to be like Shinsuke, because of like she had kind of a similar style to him with the martial arts and stuff like that. But like you could tell, okay, they're gonna put all their eggs with these four, and it's kind of come true with Julia, and I think with Mayu as well. Arisa unfortunately had to retire, and and Hana's no longer with us. But I do think like people like Tom Nakano have stepped out and kind of occupied that space that maybe would have been for Hana if she didn't pass away.
Yeah, for the company's sake, you mentioned that it's interesting you mentioned that, and I think you going back to what you said at the start. To me, Hoshiki's retirement really hit me personally. In a lot of ways. And Hana, obviously, it was a tragic scenario. But Hoshiki, for those who don't know, we have a very similar injury. And I got this like same thing that she has in her head that made her retire. And the same thing basically happened to me in my own wrestling pursuits. So it was really, really hard hitting. And she was one of my favorite wrestlers anyway, like when it comes to Hoshiki. So like that really hit me on a personal level. We were talking about it off the air. I still have some kind of like symptoms and stuff from that to this day. So that really hit me personally when that happened. And Hana obviously was very tragic for the company's perspective, losing 2 of your top 4 stars. It was clear that those were the stars that they were going to build around, your 4 pillars, 4 musketeers, whatever. And, looking at Stardom's history, it feels like from the beginning, they've gone through people leaving, or, having to retire due to injury all the way back to Yusupon, obviously. And whatever's happened, they've always been able to see somebody new rise up in their position. And I think Tam Nakano has done a fabulous job. And, I really wished that Hoshiki could have been there when she won the white belt. That would have made that moment like perfect for me. But still, Nakano's done an excellent job, and she's right up there. And they have a ton of young talent as well on the company. I really enjoy their shows in general, even now. So I will give them credit for that, just in terms of a purely a wrestling type of show. So I really got to give Stardom a lot of credit for being able to move on. But still, though, when it comes to Hana Kimura, I wish they would have handled that all a lot better, to be honest with you, when it came to Hana and her mom. And even now, we're talking about her show that's coming up, everybody's talking about. But thankfully, the good thing about that is that people that were close to her, like Jungle, Konami, they're going to be at a Hana show. They were going to say. So I really, really loved that fact that's happened. And their friendship still shines through to this day.
Yeah, and for people might not be familiar, there is a Hana Kimura Memorial Show that's happening on Fight TV. There's going to be, I think, English commentary provided by Ring of Honor's Ian Riccoboni and Cheeseburger, because she did some work for Ring of Honor. I think that's kind of like on demand. Like you can watch that, you can buy it and just watch it at any time there, Dylan. So definitely check that out. All the proceeds go to Kyoko Kimura and Hana's family. So go out and support that.
Absolutely. I bought that right away. I'm recording with you, so I can't really watch it right now, but that is appointment viewing for me. I kind of posted on Twitter. I was like, man, if there's not a show that doesn't deserve your support more than this, I don't know what it is. Because it's just a beautiful thing. My only prayer for that show, to be honest with you, because when you look on the timeline today and you look around and you see everybody who loved Hana, which was pretty much everybody, she was just a magical kind of character and person in general. I've seen a lot of pain, a lot of people are hurting over this, and I can only scratch the surface of what like a Kyoko Kimura must have been feeling throughout all of this. And it's like, my one prayer on the show is that it really helps her in some ways, because she's been through a lot. It's been a crazy year for a lot of people, but especially her. My heart goes out to her. Jungle, she was there for everything. So I'm really, my thoughts right now, even as we do this show, are with those people that are closest to Hana. And I hope that show can help give them some kind of maybe not inner peace. I don't know if that's ever possible. I can't really relate on a personal level to losing somebody that close. It's just crazy stuff, but still, I am so hopeful that that's what can happen from the show. Those girls and women can have some sense of peace from this.
Definitely. Let's transition though from Hana to Stardom. It's the company that she was most closely associated with, and I have to say, Dylan, recently, probably I gotta say, Stardom is probably my favorite wrestling company in the world right now. I can watch their shows from beginning to end, and I don't feel bored. I don't feel insulted. Half the time when I'm watching this stuff, I think everything on the card is leading to something down the line, and it makes sense. And I think they have one of the strongest, championship rosters right now. Every champion is great. Like, and I think they fulfilled their roles perfectly. I can watch like one of the later May shows, like watch it top to bottom. And I just thought, this is what a perfect American style television show would be like, but it's it's a Japanese promotion, which isn't formatted the same way as an American, wrestling television show, like the SmackDown or NXT or Dynamite is supposed to be like. But to me, it felt like one of those, but like a good one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to Stardom, they're at a really interesting time. Right now in general, where you can look at things. They're trying to. I feel like they have a lot of different styles stylistically on their roster of actual wrestlers, and they're all coming together in different things. They obviously are a very story-heavy company, and that's something, especially, when it comes to the Bushiroad influence. But even before that, they were very heavily targeting the Western audience with a lot of their translations and things like that. They were really pretty much the first company, to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure they had translations and stuff before New Japan did on their Stardom service, Stardom World. And I've always been so happy to support them and watch their shows. And in terms of the booking, in terms of the pacing of their shows, I completely see where you're coming from there, that it feels like you could have shows that are like a really good American-style show, if it was all on TV. I could totally see that.
One thing I want to really point out as a highlight for me is the work of the current tag team champions, and that's the Donna Del Mundo duo of Shuri and Julia. Like, they had an awesome title match where they won the titles from their Donna Del Mundo, like, stablemates of Maika and Himeka. And that to me is like one of my favorite matches of this year. And they since have had like an awesome defense against the Queen's Quest duo of Azumi and Momo Watanabe, and they just defended it against the MK sisters of Mayu Iwatani and Starlight Kid. And next is like they're going to be challenged by Utami Hayashida, who is the current World of Stardom champion, and her regular tag team partner Saya Kamitani. And I think that match is going to be excellent, and I'm hoping they retain the titles, because I just want to see them defend these titles against different duos in the company, including I would love to see a rematch against them and Maika and Himeka in the future.
Yeah, that I liked all of their matches. I've seen them. The one where they won the titles was obviously a huge deal for them, especially, Julia, a month coming off of the hair loss and everything like that. So it really got to establish them. I loved the Momo and Azumi match that they had. That's like those four, Julia, Shuri, Azumi, and Momo. That's like four of my top 8 probably in the whole company. And it's like all of them are so good. Azumi is somebody that always stands out to me, and I think is one of the more underrated talents in terms of the grand scheme of wrestling, analysis, journalists, fans, whatever. I feel like her work is so top tier every time. I'm impressed with her, and against a variety of opponents and different styles, and how she not only wrestles for herself but makes others look better. Shuri is one of my favorite Joshi wrestlers of all time, to be honest with you. I've seen her for a long time now, in many different companies, and I've always thought she was awesome. Great style, MMA background as well, super stiff, so smooth, so fluid. I just love her style. Julia, somebody, again, I've seen her pretty much since her first match in Japan, and the way she's grown is incredible to the wrestler she is today. She's somebody that's really benefited, I think, from wrestling so many matches against, again, a variety of opponents. That, again, she was somebody that, like we were talking about earlier with Hana, her star power, the it factor was always there. Even back when she, as soon as she stepped foot in a wrestling ring and it made tape, you knew that she had something. The wrestling wasn't always there at first. Obviously, that's no knock on her. That happens to everybody. But to see her now, it's like she is such a complete package. They made a pretty wise decision to put her as one of the top stars and probably one of the future ace of the company, as Julia. And Momo, pretty much everybody I know really appreciates her work, and I think she's one of the more underrated, not underrated in terms of the fans, but maybe underpushed talents in the company. And I thought that match was fantastic. But any team that Shuri and Julia go against, I feel like you're in for a treat because that team is just so strong, and they are both hitting it out of the park right now.
I gotta say, like, because like, unlike you, like one of my blind spots of Japanese wrestling is Joshi wrestling, and it's especially true for like Joshi wrestling of the past. So, I can't really make a parallel comparison to like Joshi from before. But what I want to do is say about like this team of Shuri and Julia is that they remind me of like a 1990s All Japan Pro Wrestling tag team.
Well, it's okay because like a lot of times that era was kind of a dark period for Joshi. Things are way better now, honestly, than they were 10 years ago, so to speak, which, Shuri was coming up. But I could see it, to be honest with you, especially their match style, like in terms of how they pace their match, not necessarily their wrestling style. Shuri especially is someone more akin to like, not to cause any craziness to happen here, but like Inoki would be like, like that. Like if he were to start a women's division in Japan in like the 90s and Shuri was teleported there, she would be the ace of the company, in terms of the women's wrestling, I would say. Julia is a huge star presence. Again, it factor, anybody could see it. She could definitely be up there, but I think in terms of the way the matches, they're always upwards of 20 minutes. They're working some of the longest matches at Stardom because Stardom's not a long match company as much as some of the other ones out there. So to see them,
which I'm thankful for, by the
way. Yeah. So I mean, listen, it sets them apart. Let's just put it that way. But they work their matches a little bit longer though, like similar to those old school tag matches you're speaking of. And obviously that era was great. And they're the type of team that you could center this whole division around. And it'll just elevate the titles and the whole division pretty much because these are two top stars. They're great workers, fantastic. Everything about them, really. Charisma, looks. Shuri, super underrated in terms of her charisma, I feel like. Everyone kind of sees her as like this shooter type of wrestler, but if you look at some of her promos and the way she carries herself, everything about her is awesome.
I think I think she's kind of like really grown, especially with her interactions with Utami Hayashishida, because she's like, starting a rivalry with her. She wants to challenge for her red belt soon. And I want to talk about Utami. Like, I think she's done an amazing job as the World of Stardom champion. Like, usually, sometimes, the red belt kind of takes a backseat to the white belt, even though the white belt is kind of like meant to be kind of like the IC title of the company. But depending on who's holding it, sometimes it elevates to become the main title of the company. But I think Utami's just done an excellent job with that. Let's talk about the white champion, that's Tom Nakano, who's also 1/3 of the Artist of Stardom champions, which is the trios title in the company. And one thing I like about the trios division right now is that the Cosmic Angels of Tam and Unagi Sayaka and Mina Shirakawa are just like, I like that they're a unit. There's only 3 of them. They're not a faction. They're just the 3, and they feel like a real tag team.
Yeah, that was a great move, splitting Tom apart from Stars. It's clear that there was some kind of change when it comes to Bushiroad in terms of, in the past in Stardom, they would do the draft, and it would always be 3 or 4 factions, and like Mayu would pick somebody, and then so and so would pick somebody else. Momo would pick somebody. Blah blah blah, and they could tell some interesting stories with that. But whenever Bushiroad got in there, it felt like they abandoned all of that and went to a much more traditional faction, formatting. And Tom has been one of the great ones to benefit from it because with this Cosmic Angels group, like you said, they fit together stylistically, first of all, and that's great. It's great for Tom because it makes her look like instead of being second fiddle to Mayu, which she always was going to be in Stars, she gets to lead her own faction and can break out in her own way. And for the others, they have a link now that puts them near the top of the card automatically. So it really benefited all 3 in so many ways. It was a really great booking decision to put them together.
And I gotta shout out to the current high speed champion, which is Natsupoi. I think since coming into the company, and she used to be in Stardom before with like Sariano, and then they both left, and then she came back, jumping ship from Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling to join Stardom. But like, she became like kind of the newest member of Donna Del Mundo. It's like, well, she's gonna get lost in the shuffle, maybe. No, she had the awesome match where she won the high speed title. I was from Azumi, the aforementioned Azumi. That was an awesome match, and she's had awesome defenses of that title. And I think she's really stood out. And I can see her eventually like rising higher in the card and higher in terms of the roster.
To me, I have to give all credit to Azumi, because it felt like when she wrestled her, it unlocked some kind of secret level to Natsupoi. Because when she came in, and here's the thing, like, she's had a very interesting career up and down. She's jumped from different companies. She was in Actress Girls for a while. There's rumors of heat pretty much everywhere she's went, to be honest with you. And some of the things that she's had to deal with, maybe, not fitting in somewhat. But she found her way back to Stardom. New name, new gimmick. Maybe that was a sign that, like, hey, she was just her real name on the other, the other promotions, Natsumi Maki. But then she comes in, new name, Natsupoi, new look. We're in Donna Del Mondo. They made a big deal out of her coming in, because remember, that was during the era where it felt like there was a new wrestler debuting every week in Stardom. But hers got a very special debut, because remember, all of the faction before the week before she came in did her pose coming in, and everyone was like, "Oh crap, Natsumi's coming in." And then she came in, and I thought she was really not that impressive, to be honest with you. For the first 6 months, one of these people, kind of like you were saying, get lost in the shuffle. Then she wrestles Azumi, has a super banger of a match, like Azumi always does. And ever since then, it's like she took that momentum, and it was like, hey, I am still, because when she was in Tokyo Joshi Pro, everybody thought that she could be somebody there. She had a lot of talent and was, one of the better people there. So then she came in, and she was, it took her a little bit to find her footing, but now that she's found it, it's like, oh yeah, she's awesome, pretty much. And I totally agree with you. This whole roster up and down is like loaded. I feel like with so many people, great additions they've hired. They got people that I were fans of before they came in, people that I didn't expect them to bring in, and they found a way, whether it's Maika, Himika, Shuri, Unagi Sayaka. It's like all of these people that have come in and been new people, new wrestlers on the roster for the last couple of years, and they just did a wonderful job with all of them. And they have all stepped up as well. And Natsupoi is right near the top of that list. She's got a big future ahead of her.
Yeah, and they're in the midst of their Cinderella tournament. I love the first round of this, and I just finished watching the show with the second round and quarterfinals, and I'm just really excited about like the semifinals and the finals that are going to be coming up in the near future. What did you think about the second round and quarterfinal? I like the first round a lot more. I thought there was a lot like more surprising decisions in the booking. But what I love about the second round is like the goal seems to be for this whole Cinderella tournament, get the younger talent over, get like the stars that the wrestlers who don't have titles get some shine, and create like these kind of new rivalries among the different members of each of different factions. And I think it just really has made the company a lot fresher. Especially, I think I'm really happy about, like the progress that I think Unagi Sayaka has made in this tournament. And I think like she's someone to keep an eye out. Like I don't know if she's going to win the whole thing, but I think, she'll have a good showing from here on in.
Absolutely. I love what she has done. She's another one where it felt like when she first came in, I was like, oh, okay. She's okay, pretty much. But then now you see her lately, and it feels like she's really growing into that role. And I love seeing it. I love seeing everyone succeed and live up to their promise. As far as the tournament itself, I would say her beating Shuri was a bit of a surprise in the second round. I really didn't see that, or the quarterfinals technically. I really didn't expect that. And the thing is, I love the Cinderella tournament because it's a great way for new fans. Maybe you haven't seen these people. You get a chance to watch them, and it's like an entry point into the whole company, especially this tournament. You could say it about any tournament, Champion Carnival, G1, and New Japan Cup if it's a single elimination, blah, blah, blah. But with the Cinderella tournament, every match is bite-sized. So you're getting a snapshot of the entire roster pretty much. And it gives you a little bit. It's like nobody's going to sit here and probably, I mean, I guess anything's possible, but the odds of there being a match of the year outside of the final probably is very low. You're just getting to see what these girls are about. So you get to see them wrestle, and they all done a great job. I wouldn't say there's any match that was like super standout, but none of them are bad either. Like I said, it's more like they're a really good standout, or a really good snapshot rather of the show.
One thing I like about the format of the show, of the tournament, is the way you can win is like a submission, pinfall. But you also, if you eliminate your opponent off over the top rope. And usually what happens a lot of these matches is like, you know, like an elimination will happen because both wrestlers have gone over the top rope, but they're fighting on the apron. And you get kind of like these apron wins, which don't really count traditionally because that's not like how you would normally win a match. So you can have like Unagi defeat Shuri that way, but it doesn't really hurt it doesn't hurt Shuri, but it doesn't make, you know, Unagi look bad. In fact, it helps her, but it doesn't hurt the opponent. I think you saw a lot of those kinds of eliminations in the first round, and I think it helped the winner of those matches, but it didn't hurt any of the losers. And I think that's really important because you're saving, like, you're teasing some of these bigger matches, like that, you know, Shuri had with Utami. They fought in the second round, yeah. But it doesn't detract from when they're going to have their proper singles match, hopefully for the red belt, because they didn't have like a 30-minute time limit or a 60-minute time limit, and they didn't, you know, the decision wasn't a pinfall or a submission. So I think you teased that match, but you saved it and you created something interesting within the tournament itself. But you created even more interest in like the company as a whole and the feud between those two as a whole.
Absolutely, it's a great tool that they're using, and you can see it now. I mean, the final four here: Unagi, Himeka, Maika, Saya, Kamitani. They are pushing the young wrestlers and putting them over with this unique way that they probably wouldn't want to do. It's not like you would probably have, Mayu doing a job to Himeka in 6 minutes under normal circumstances. But now with the rules of the tournament, you can get Himeka over, or anybody over, and you don't have to worry about so much like you said, it's not a normal match. So it's really again more like a bite-sized version of what these girls could do together, and that it's going to be something great with some like a pair like Shuri and Utami. When they get together, we know it's going to be a banger, and to continue this feud that way is a great use of the tournament. And then it totally led to Shuri putting over Sayaka. And so it was like really good booking, I thought, to the way they formatted it and set it off with Shuri particularly. She was like the lightning rod or the catalyst of this tournament in a lot of ways, because she got the win over Utami, the red belt champion, and then put over somebody that was a little bit unexpected. So it was like you get double the bonus of it. So I really love the booking of the tournament.
So let's close off our Stardom talk with your prediction of the Final Four. Who's going to take the whole kit and caboodle? Who's going to win the dress? Who's going to make the challenge for whatever belt they want? Who's going to be the Cinderella winner of 2021, Dylan, in your opinion?
Okay, so I think it cannot be Saya because she just had her red belt match versus Utami. When it comes to Himeka and Maika, they're more known as a tag team, but they, currently Donna Del Mondo is represented by Shuri and Julia. Sayaka is in Cosmic Angels, which would be an interesting story, and she probably got, she was in the main event of that show, the second round. So that seems like something that could be a little bit of a tip-off. I think, though, if you look at what they did last year in the 5-Star Grand Prix, Himeka was who they focused on, and I think this might be her time. I think with all four being youngsters, and they're, some of them have been wrestling longer than others, but still, they're all relatively fresh faces, and they have done a great job. I think Himeka is going to be the one to take it.
All right, I can see that. I would agree with you, but I do think there's something to be said about the recent push of Maika in the company. So yeah, I'm kind of like torn. Like I don't believe it's going to be Saya Kamitani. I don't think it's going to be Unagi, because I don't think Unagi's on that level right now. I think she's still a work in progress. But Himeka, I think it would be a really interesting match because they're like Utami is also a power wrestler and Himeka is like like a power wrestler because of her size, but Maika would be a real styles contrast, and which I think makes for great wrestling matches. So I'm gonna lean. You go with Himeka. I can see that, but I'm gonna lean more towards Maika winning the whole thing because I do think they're very, very high on her.
To be honest, if you asked me who I preferred, we did the show for this March Madness a couple of months ago, and these two actually met in the tournament on my Joshi show. I did with the Jumping Bomb Audio guys, and that was a lot of fun. But in it, I basically said that, look, they have gotten behind Himeka more, and she's risen up more steadily. But if you look at how they wrestle, I actually prefer Maika as well. So I kind of hope you're right, but I think that they're going to play that's a rematch of last year's final in the 5-star Grand Prix. It was Himeka and Utami. So that's really where I'm coming from with my prediction. But if Maika wins, I'm totally on board with this because I think she's a fantastic wrestler. She's really grown a lot fast, and Utami, it's like, we talked about it with these others like Julia. It's like, it took them a little time. Utami, it's like the minute she stepped foot in that ring, it's like, okay, this is somebody we need to watch. And Maika is kind of the same way. It's like within 10 matches, she's she's already a tremendous worker. So it's crazy how some people can pick up on it so fast like that.
Yeah, well, like you say, if Himeka wins, I'm not gonna have a problem with that because I think it'll still if her and Tommy go for the red belt and it's an epic. I'm perfectly fine with watching that and talking about it. Dylan, let's move on. Let's move on to New Japan Pro Wrestling. This
is what everybody wants us to talk about here.
The brother promotion in the Bushiroad family to Stardom, the inferior product. Yeah, I fucking said it. The inferior product to Stardom, booking wise, the way the champions are presented, and really, they're in a complete shitstorm right now because they're the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Will Ospreay injured his neck during his match against Shiko Takagi on May 4th at Wrestling Dontaku, and he vacated. And it was serious enough, Dylan. Like this is Will Ospreay. This is the guy who suffered a serious neck injury in a match against Marty Scurll for the junior title, and then a week later, flew over to America from Japan to wrestle like 100 fucking times during WrestleMania week, over there, and all with this really bad neck that like you could tell like he did suffer in the match against Skrull. But this is the guy who I'm sure fulfilled a dream of his and was like prepared to carry this company on his back with being the world champion during this really trying time of like the COVID pandemic in Japan, which is getting hard, really hard. Like I think more so than maybe any other country in the world right now because of their really poor vaccination plan over there. But New Japan is really fucked right now. Like I'm not trying to be smart or funny or anything like that. Like seriously, they're really fucked right now. Like that Ospreay was so seriously injured that he had to, vacate this title. A title I'm sure he was had a lot of plans for in terms of like, I'm going to use this, I'm going to elevate this belt as much as I can. I'm going to use it to elevate myself. That he vacated it. He's gone back to the United Kingdom to recover. But you know what? One of the things that I was like hearing from other people was like all these kinds of, theories and rumors that maybe he's not actually injured, that maybe he's really dissatisfied with the company right now, with the way they've handled COVID, with the way they've handled their insane schedule. And a lot of the foreign talent that gets imported into Japan by New Japan are not happy with New Japan. That's like the general gist of what I'm hearing. And these are all this is all secondhand, folks. Like I'm not getting this source from like people who are in the company, but I'm getting it sourced from people who know people in the company. So Dylan, what do you think? Do you buy this idea that Will Ospreay is not actually injured, that he's like not seriously injured, that is, but like he's got this cumulative like injuries that he suffered, and that maybe wrestling shingles not going to help that in any way, shape, or form, because of the way they wrestled each other in that match. But like that, it's idea that like he's as dissatisfied as like maybe your David Finleys or Jay Whites with the company, and that fuck it, I'm just gonna go home because like New Japan doesn't know what they're doing.
So this whole situation, everything that's being said, alluded to, and God knows what else by so many people. It's not just one thing. I feel like, like all of those things could be true or none of them could be true in a lot of ways. As Sting once said in WCW, the only thing that's for sure is nothing is for sure. But I'm going to give my thought of this, because when that injury and that title, vacancy was announced, my first thought was, oh, like this must be an angle of some sort. Like, because why would this come out 3 weeks later after all of their shows have been postponed and moved back? It's like, did he not get a doctor's check before all of this? That was my first thought. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying what I thought. Also, remember that I used to wrestle, and that makes me very paranoid and cynical as well. So you have to take me with a grain of salt on that. But that was my first thought, was like, this makes no sense to be real. Like you mentioned, I know that as well, is that he's a guy that's known for working through injuries and things of that nature. So I really wasn't buying this at the start. I didn't really say that because I felt bad because it was a neck injury and things like that. I personally don't want to mess with a neck injury because that can really mess up somebody's life, not just as a wrestler, but as their life. So I try to handle that kind of subject matter sensitively. But that was really what I was thinking at first, in all honesty. Then all of this stuff comes out. Like that we're hearing about it, all these rumors and whatnot. Nothing's for sure. Again, I'm not saying it's a definitive fact. I'm just reacting to what we're hearing. And with all of the pieces, and some things have been said, like I was saying on JBL's podcast, Dave Finley, Finley's dad, Fit Finley, obviously some people would say, he was mentioning that, the company, at first they said, hey, you can go home. And then they said, no, wait, you can't go home. We actually have house shows to run now. And that seemed to really be a big part of a lot of frustration, which wasn't necessarily the promotion itself just being careless, or was it a miscommunication error? It seems like there's a lot of communication errors right now in that company going on from like the top down. It feels like a really hectic situation. The pandemic has caused a lot of issues, and on a personal level, again, this is me speculating, I don't know Will Ospreay at all, but to me it's like, you're seeing the pandemic, I do think he is injured. Like, let me just say that right now. I think if his life was on the line, could he wrestle and get through whatever they need him to? I think he could. I don't think the injury is necessarily that bad, but I do know that he's hurting in a lot of ways, and I'm sure it would probably be good for him to take some time off. But on top of that, you see the pandemic, you see the company, there's miscommunications going on up and down. A lot of people are said to be pissed, not just him, but a lot of people. And some people are saying not even just the foreigners, but a lot of people are not happy with what's going on in New Japan right now and how they're handling a lot of things. So you see that. You see things are getting upset. You see that, and this is something that I haven't seen anyone mention, but so when he was first signed to New Japan and he was going to live there and all of this, Bea Priestley was there. And she's not there now. I do think the timing of that is very interesting, that a month later, he had a way of life. He was living on top of the world, and suddenly things have changed. Things are getting worse and worse in Japan. He's losing the person that was the closest to him. And I think that could have some psychological effects on him as well. So I do think that is a possible thing, because, we heard about him moving to Japan. Now they're saying he wants to go to the UK. If it was necessary, why wouldn't he, if all things were perfect for him, why wouldn't he just get things done in Japan if he were happy there? But instead, he's going back to the UK. And it seems like there's just a lot of moving parts to all of this. But to me, the short answer is, I'm not really buying that this injury was that devastating that it caused him to vacate the title. In my heart of hearts, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know for sure. But to me, I think there's a lot in play that made this happen.
I think a lot of the talent there, whether they're Japanese or foreign, are really upset with how they've handled COVID. Like now, like, you know, they were getting praise last year because they shut down, and they took it very, very seriously about like, oh, someone had an elevated, you know, temperature in the temperature check, so we're gonna cancel this show. And you'd be like, as you know, someone who's observing this, it'd be like, oh, good, they're being responsible, right? They're trying to protect their staff, but like they've had 9 confirmed cases. Like we know who 2 of them are, because it was revealed. Like I give shout out to Voices of Wrestling. They kind of broke the story that, you know, Jay White and David Finlay apparently have COVID. They caught it in Japan. They were set to go home, respectively, I think, back to America. And with Jay, I'm not sure if he's like, I know he stayed in America for a long time during the last, you know, kind of like, you know, lockdown kind of situation. Like he didn't go back to New Zealand. So I don't know if he was going to go back to the States or he's going to go back to New Zealand, but neither of them can leave. They were told, like, you got COVID, you can't travel. You gotta quarantine until you're over it, and you get tested again before you can get on the plane again. And then they have to do these last minute shows that were just announced to make up for the Yokohama Stadium show being canceled, the fucking Tokyo Dome show, the ridiculous idea of having a Tokyo show in the middle of the fucking year, like, get canceled. And like I get upset, because as a fan, this doesn't make any sense to me. But I get upset as a fan of like the wrestlers, because like I will always side with the wrestler over the company every time, whether it's WWE,
absolutely,
New Japan, All Japan. I don't fucking care what company it is. I will, in most cases, if there's a dispute between a wrestler and a company, 90% of the time I'm going to side with the wrestler. And in this case, I side with the wrestlers. Like, they're being jerked around. I think the office it doesn't know what they're doing. Obviously, like I think I bang on about the booking, but I think that's Geto trying to, like, I think he's had his time. I think him and Dick Togo need to fucking go. But I'll give him some like leeway in the sense, like, he's got to fill this stupid fucking schedule, because like I think New Japan's probably got some financial problems that they're trying to dig themselves out of, and then their solution is like, let's have more shows. But hey, to spend money, to make money, you have to spend money. But if you spend that money and you don't get the fucking money back, well, you're still not making fucking money, are you?
I suspect, we were talking about this on DM earlier. I suspect that this all has to do with some kind of end-game number, and I'm not sure what that would be. But, I'm just this is not the real number, but just for example, let's just say Bushiroad said you have to have 1 million fans by year's end. They want to put that number down no matter what. However many shows it takes, be damned. But they want to put that number down because Bushiroad, again, financial problems for New Japan, yes, but if they show they're worth investing in, that will go a better way than if they just have nothing to show for it, pretty much. Not only then you will also have financial issues, but also then you have nothing to really show for it. If they and this is, again, speculation by me, but if they have an in-game number like that, they could go to Bushiroad and say, hey, look, the pandemic forced our hand, but we still had this many people that were in attendance for our shows. I think that would mean something. I think that's their thinking. Again, this is just an educated guess, I guess you could say, on how they're thinking of why they're doing that. Clearly, I think, and I mentioned this on my show too, on the Eastern Lariat a month or two ago or whatever. It's clear to me that they're making this push, and that would also explain why they wanted to have that big Tokyo Dome show. They had 2 big shows in a month. I mean, that's pretty much unprecedented for normal New Japan standards. And they keep running Corcoran Hall over and over. And, my co-host on my other show, Striga, he was not too happy with how many Corcoran shows they were running and how terrible they are, they all are. And I was saying, look, the pandemic must have caused this in some way, because it makes no sense of what they're doing. It's clear they must be getting a deal somewhere along the line to help this along. And like I said, that's why speculation. That they have some kind of number that they want to hit desperately, and they're trying to do all of these shows at Corcoran. Then you have the Dome show. You have this other Dome show. It's like over and over, you're trying to do different things. That's why speculation on that. By year's end, I think they want a number of some sort. That's why the numbers are how they are.
Yeah, but I feel like it's just so short-sighted, because you're just bastardizing your product by having these big shows like in stadiums and back in the Tokyo Dome before Wrestle Kingdom. And to me, like they just announced 3 shows at Cork and Hall, May 24th, May 25th, May 26th. And they look like shit. Dylan, like these cards look like fucking shit. I mean, you got who you got filling in for people? Fucking Chase Owens and fucking Douki and people that.
Let me cut you off right there. First of all, because I don't want to talk about these goofs. Douki's okay. I like Douki's okay by me. I liked his performance last year in the Best of Super Juniors. But that's another thing why I mentioned that about Ospreay earlier. That was kind of another theory I had. Like, if you're in his shoes, regardless of what happens, if there's total disarray, everybody goes. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but I'm just saying, regardless of what happened, if everything goes okay, everything is great, or everything goes bad, you leave now, in his mind, in the wrestler way, you would think here, is that, hey, even if they hate me, even if they want to get rid of me eventually, will they throw away a money match with me and Okada? Because I thought that was a big part of it. Again, before we knew any information about anything, my first thought was, they don't want to have Okada and Ospreay on a smaller show. They want to have it on a bigger show. And this is their way out, pretty much, at this weird time that Dick Togo is apparently brought in with his booking to New Japan. And, Gato, obviously, with his craziness as well. But it felt like, to me, they're trying to avoid having big matches at all right now on these smaller shows, and that's why they look so terrible. And you have goofballs like Chase Owens on these shows, and it's hard to really blame them too much. Half the roster's COVID infected. They're not going to risk anybody. Even there's rumors here and there about Okada, but even if he was completely healthy, they're probably not looking to risk him on, look at some of these cards here. They're not risking him in a main event 6-man tag or a main event tag match that nobody cares about.
No, of course not. But with if you want to save Okada versus Ospreay for the title, and the prevailing theory would be that Okada would win the belt back from Ospreay. The way Geto books is guys like Ospreay, Jay White, whoever, even Naito, the way he was booked, his first title win is give the fans a taste and put the title on these guys for a short while. That elevates them. I don't think it does. I think it makes the title look like shit in a lot of cases.
And then look how much that title reign for Jay White made him look like a geek. He lost it immediately to Okada.
Totally bad. It would have been better if he won it in a big moment and just kept the title for a year. But anyways, the problem with that is with the theory with that is you've got Dominion coming up. That's one of their big fucking shows. That's their fucking SummerSlam. It's in their hottest market outside of Tokyo, and that's Osaka. They were going to do incredibly well running Osaka Joe Hall especially if you had Okada versus Ospreay for the title in that building. But the original schedule was you're going to have these fucking Grand Slam shows at Yokohama Stadium, at the Tokyo Dome, and then 3 weeks later you're going to have the show. You can have Dominion at Osaka Joe Hall. And I was thinking, what the fuck are you going to put in Dominion if you run the Okada versus Ospreay at the Tokyo Dome? Okay, what's next? What do you possibly put in there? What are you gonna bolster the card with? All your junior heavyweight division has been decimated as well. And I like a lot of the guys who are still around, but it's been fucking decimated. And what match do you have if you already do Okada versus Ospreay for Dominion? You got nothing. I'm sorry, you don't. I would not burn Okada versus Shingo for that belt. It would make no sense booking wise to do it. You know what I mean? Because he lost the challenge against Ospreay. But I feel like Shingo Takagi is the one wrestler that they got to protect. And I think they got to protect him, winning the title at a big event. I'm talking about fucking Wrestle Kingdom.
I think that there's I would be stunned if something like that happened with Shingo. They've really not shown him to be a main eventer at all in their booking. The push they gave him these last few months was a Goto level push. He made the finals, yes. He had the title match, yes. But it was such a weak, spot in the schedule. The match, obviously, a lot of people loved it. That was a crazy, awesome match, which is great. But the schedule, it's you put it in the same month you're going to do a dome show with Okada. That was a completely filler title defense. I don't think you can read anything into it at all. And I love Shingo, great wrestler, one of the best on the roster. But another thing here you have to understand, because a lot of people have kind of said that they brought up Shingo and say, oh, now is the time to put the title on Ishii, which I love that. Like I would totally do that if it were me, but this is not Dylan's New Japan, unfortunately. Or a lot of things would be different if that were the case. But to me, I feel like those guys, you have to understand, those guys are not trainees. You know, they were never Young Lions. Even Okada started out on a different system, but had to integrate himself in the New Japan system. So I think that's why they book guys like that in a certain way. Sonata as well, in his own way, and Ibushi as well. Like, look who they chose to sacrifice with the title unification insanity that they had. It feels like to me they treat their own guys one way, and people who are not Young Lions and in their system another way. And I think Shingo is unfortunately a victim of that in some sense, because as a wrestler, yes, he's super dynamic, super talented. My first thought, again, I'm just going by, this is before we learned anything. My first thought was the winner of the G1 can get the title. Like, that's you kind of lucked into something that could be special and cool and give your guys something to do. That to me would be a perfect storyline for Naito as well, because then you have another thing that he could take away from Okada and Tanahashi. That's always like his deal. You know, look at with the double titles. His big thing was, I want to be the first double champion, so they can never be the first ones. Like, no matter what happened, he could be the first one to win the title in the G1 and put that over their heads as well, no matter what they do. I think that would be a great storyline. But it seems like they're already kind of teasing that something's going to happen with the title sooner rather than later. And like you said, they've got big shows to worry about. So they've not only got big shows, they also have a million Korakuen Hall shows that they would probably want the world champion on. So I can understand why they wouldn't want to wait that long. The person they teased was Shingo to get the title match. But to me, if I were running New Japan right now, and I hate to say it because, like I said, as a fan, I want to see guys like Shingo and Ishii and Goto have great matches and be the champion and win and get rewarded for their hard work because they deserve it. But if it were me, I would think, look, this era of New Japan is so chaotic and crazy. There's, disruptions behind the scenes. The title just got vacated. Your champions left the country. COVID's not getting any better with your own country. The Olympics are throwing a wrench into everything. So it's like there's a lot going on. I would try to pick somebody who has stability, somebody that the fans will always love. You know what you're getting, whether it's an Okada or a Tanahashi or even a Naito. I think that those guys would be the people I would want to look at right now in the context of everything going on. As a fan, I would love if it was Shingo or someone like that. But to me, I think that their booking pattern, they're historically how they booked, I feel like they're going to go for someone that's more of a stable force, and that's why they're kind of moving this up a little bit faster. And Shingo's a good person for them to, like, unfortunately, I feel like they see him as kind of like the guy that they can have lose in a lot of ways. But you have Ibushi right there, too. He just did an interview on their website that they put over. It was very interesting, too, a lot of the stuff that he was saying. And you have a natural story, because in that interview, he was saying something to the effect of, I really want another chance to do it right this time. And I think that's a good story, even though the fans aren't really ready for that. I'm not saying he should win. I said it on the other show. I think he's pretty much unpushable right now because the fans kind of turned on him because of the titles. But I think that's a story you could tell, and it would solidify, whoever it would be. My gut is always to say Okada is going to win the title. If you listen to my show, whenever there's something to be predicted with New Japan, I usually just lean towards Okada winning everything because that's kind of how they've done for a long time. But right now, things are so up in the air. Who knows what they have planned or what rules they follow. But if it were me, and this is just me analyzing, I would expect someone very familiar to be the champion. Let's put it that way.
Well, you mentioned the G1 and the idea that maybe the G1 will crown the new champion. But, like, I would say that if the G1 was going to be held in August, but it's not, because, like, insane as it sounds, with, like, 2% of the population vaccinated fully in Japan, they still want to do the Olympics. So guess what? Guess what's not happening in August? Yeah, that's right. The G1. Guess when the G1's happening? Probably in October. I don't think New Japan can survive without having, like, a headlining champion, like, on some of the shows between now and October. That's like that would be even like a bigger, like, nail in, like, not their coffin. I don't think they're gonna fucking die or anything like that. But you know what I mean? Like, it won't help them with, like, whatever money situation that they may or may not be in right now. But okay, with that being said,
bad look. It's just a bad look not to have a champion.
Yeah. Well, you know what you could have done? You could have had, like, the IC champ. Oh wait, they got rid of that fucking title because they're fucking stupid. Okay, you could, if you had the IC champion, like if the IC title was at the same stature as like when Nakamura held it, you could survive without the world title for a while. And you could maybe put it up in the G1 in the fall if you had like the IC champion, be defending that title and maybe elevating that belt at the same time. But, I don't know. Like, so if it was me and I'm thinking, like you're saying, like, I think you hit great points. Like, you need stability. You need someone that the fans really believe in. But you also need someone who has the stature and the cachet and the charisma to be the champion in this kind of a difficult situation. And as much as I love Tomohiro Ishii, he does not have the cachet, in my opinion, because he's a mid-card wrestler. He's a main event he's a main event talented wrestler who's pushed as a mid-carder. That's his lot in that company. Who I would go with would probably be Minoru Suzuki, even at his age, but he's still a goddamn amazing worker. And also, you know what? He's got the cachet because he's held the title, in every fucking company except New Japan. He's been GHC champion. He's been, Triple Crown champion. And why should Muto have all the fucking, glory in terms of being like a Triple Crown champion, like of the three major companies? Okay, let's give it to fucking Minoru Suzuki. I think it would be great if he was a champion. I think he would bring the stability that you're talking about.
That would be somebody fresh, that like somebody who's never held the title before. I mean, I guess technically nobody's held the title before except Ibushi, but realistically, he's never been the top champion of New Japan, so that would be interesting. His past title runs I thought were absolutely dreadful, so I as a fan would not want another Suzuki-gun type of title reign. So that's just me as a fan. But he does have cachet, though. If you wanted to go by that, you wanted to have him have a little bit of a run, that would be kind of a cool thing. And, with everything going on right now with the AEW, it seems like there's new stuff going on there every week. Suzuki is somebody that would appeal to the Western fans as well. You could put him against all kinds of different people, and he has a lot of respect in the industry, not just in terms of a wrestler. So I think that's a pretty interesting idea. I hope it's not like all of his other title reigns, though, unfortunately.
Well, I wouldn't want to see like his GHC title reign like fucking reenacted in New Japan.
Or his never title reign that he had.
I can't remember it. Maybe that's a good thing the way you're talking about it. But like, anyway, that's just an idea. Like Naito's not a bad like suggestion either, like what you're saying. But we'll see what happens with the IWGP World Heavyweight Title. We'll see.
Let me just say this: one way or the other, regardless of who wins this now, Okada's winning that title. It's like one way or the other, and whether it's now or whether it's at the Tokyo Dome in January. Like this is all going to lead back to Okada. Like one way or the other. I will stand by that. I will stand firm as long as I can on that.
And before we close our discussion about New Japan, I want to mention that, it was just announced that Satoshi Kojima will make his Impact Wrestling debut. And apparently they've already filmed everything and he's up until like the next pay-per-view, whatever the fuck that's called. I don't know. I don't fucking watch Impact Wrestling.
Come on. Don't be mean.
What? How am I being mean? I don't fucking watch. I don't fucking know the name. It's Bound for Fucking Bullshit. Is that the name of the pay per view?
Surely it's. I don't think it's that. That would be, that would not be a good idea. I would say, but I think it's Slammiversary. Let's just put it that way.
Shamiversary? I call it Shamiversary. Okay, like Impact Wrestling's bullshit. Let's just be honest here. Okay, it's a shit company. It's been shit since its inception. The only thing they ever got right was Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle, and then they fucked that up as well. Okay, but anyway, Satoshi Kojima is going to be
new management. WH, there's new management there now. Everything's different.
Who? Bullet Club alumni? Fucking Pete D'Amore. Yeah, Scott D'Amore, what fuck his name is? Yeah, what is who cares? Anyways,
how dare you disrespect? Hey, how dare you disrespect Team Canada's leader right now? What show am I on right now?
Hey, he's a border town guy. I don't count him as Canadian. Anyways, Kojima's there. Nagata was just in AEW. Your show partner, my good friend Striga, he said he had a theory that maybe New Japan is sending all these older guys over to America to work, but also to get vaccinated in America.
Who knows? That sounds like really a convoluted way to go about it. How would that benefit New Japan exactly? It's like like these guys aren't that important to their booking at the end of the day.
Here's the other thing. Like, I don't think Nagata was in there long enough to get both shots of anything.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's like these guys are in and out pretty much. Like I said, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not sure I'm buying that, but that would be nice if they could get vaccinated though somehow. That would be cool. Anybody, I think, everybody needs to be safe and do what's best for them. Regardless of their age, but especially if you're vulnerable on that end, it's like the virus is so, especially Japan. It's like I do not consider myself any kind of expert on the medical field or the political one, so it's just kind of crazy when you think about all of these moving parts in all of these different countries and stuff like that. But I mean, who knows? Maybe that is some kind of secret plan they've had in place. I guess that's one way to go about it.
Satoshi Kojima, next IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, because he's fucking vaccinated against COVID in America, and so we can trust putting the belt on him, and he won't be vacating it because he's got the fucking COVID. Anyways, we'll see if that happens. If that happens, I'm taking a victory lap on your left. That's all I'll be saying every day, all day. Anyways, let's move on.
Great.
Let's go to All Japan Pro Wrestling, the anti-Impact Wrestling, because I actually like this company. And Dylan, they just announced that they're going to have their Junior Battle of Glory tournament. It's a single elimination tournament. The first round will take place on June 2nd. Quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals will all take place on June 3rd. And some interesting participants. We'll go through the participants as we talk about the first round matches. First off is Francesco Akira taking on Tajiri. I think that actually surprising will be an enjoyable match because I think Francesco and Tajiri, they have that relationship, but they have very good chemistry with one another.
Akira has a great future ahead of him. I love that guy. He's somebody that's been working to do a little bit of the English language stuff for All Japan 2 recently. So it seems like he's going to be a valuable member of that roster. Tajiri is probably legitimately one of my least favorite wrestlers to watch in the world. So I cannot say I'm looking forward to any of his matches, to be honest with you. But Akira, I hope, does great work because I really love that kid.
If he goes through, then we won't have to see any more Tajiri in this tournament.
Well, that would be great. I would love that. Maybe Akira could have another good match. But Tajiri, I'm always a little bit weary. That.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a rhyme. There's a KRS one level rhyme right there. Tajiri, and that makes me weary.
Yeah, it's very good, very nice. I see what you did there. Here's the thing: I always try to see the silver linings in bad situations. So with the COVID, you don't see too much fighting in the crowds anymore, which I fucking hate. So that's good. Oh, yeah. Also, Tajiri doesn't do the myths anymore because COVID. So I take my positives where I can find them. Dylan, next match. Dan Tamura taking on 0-1's Tatsuhiro Takaiwa. And I don't know. I haven't seen too much recent Takaiwa, so I don't know what he's like anymore. But he used to be fucking awesome. You know what I mean? So, maybe...
It's the same as he was. Pretty much. It's bald. He has 3 moves, and they're all great.
Okay, so this is a great learning experience then for young Dan Tamura, to wrestle someone that he should be kind of stylistically emulating.
Absolutely, like a power junior type of guy. I'm all for this. Takai was awesome, and he always was, pretty much. So, just
don't emulate, Takaiwa in the personal life department, because I think the man's I'm trying to think of the adjective, the proper adjective, but he's known to be a gambler, doing the pachinko and the horse racing, I think.
Oh, I didn't know that part out there. I didn't want Tamura to lose his head of hair. That's all. That's what I'm worried about here. But listen, Takai was a 0-1. I'm sure he's fine. So.
Oh yeah, because there's no Yakuza money or no. Possible scandals involving all the money marks going through there. No, of course not. Anyways, Next match: Black Menzure versus Yusuke Kodama. This should be fine. I don't know. Menzure can have good matches when he's motivated, and Kodama has kind of hit and miss for me, but yeah, it should be okay. If it goes 10 minutes in and out, that's fine.
Kodama stepped up hard when he first came in, but then it's he's kind of regressed to the mean because he hasn't done anything pretty much. So I feel like he's kind of become unmotivated again, kind of like he was in Wrestle 1 by the end there. If they somehow told him, they were like, hey, Kodama, you're going to win the tournament, I think he could step up and do some good things. If he's just going to do his regular stuff, then this will only be okay. I like Black Menza-Ray, actually. I think he's a pretty good undercard type of worker. And it can be, this seems like a very solid match on paper. Nothing that's going to blow us away, but it's going to be a fine watch and easy to get through.
The next match I'm very excited about. It's young Atsuki Aoyagi, one of their promising, junior heavyweights. He's a high flyer himself. He's going to take on the legendary Japanese sleaze indie wrestler, super high flyer, Sugi.
Sugi was one of my original favorite wrestlers back when he was in his Yoshitsune gimmick, all the way back then. And a million other ones, by the way, until he
How about his All Japan gimmick of Ahi?
Oh, when was that?
It was like fucking like Muto era, booking of All Japan, and he was like this fucking like Power Ranger ant bullshit thing or something. Yeah. I don't know, but I was like, who's this fucking guy? And then someone said, oh, remember Yatsune and fucking Suki? That's him. He's got another identity. He's got
El Blazer.
I liked El Blazer. I like when he was El Blazer. He's got this guy has probably had more identities than like a fucking who's that famous? What's that famous book about split personality? Anyways, someone's gonna be like tweeting me, WH, is this book? Yeah, whatever. Anyways, that should be a fun match. I'm looking forward to see what Sugi can do with young Atsuki Aoyagi here.
Yes, I look forward to what the former Catfish man can pull out here versus Aoyagi. And Aoyagi, again, it's kind of like what you were saying with Tamura and Takaiwa. Sugi's somebody that he could learn from, like any high flyer, like that's a young guy could, because like Sugi does stuff even today that nobody else can do pretty much with his flying. It's so impressive. He's not always 100% accurate, when it comes to his smoothness. There are, there's going to be some mess ups here and there, but for the most part, he's pretty freaking awesome. To be honest with you, I think he was a great person to have. Who knows what political nonsense there's going to be with 01 and X01 guys in this tournament, but they're on different sides, it seems like. So I doubt that they end up, Takaiwa and Sugi end up crossing paths.
And then we have from, he's a freelancer from Basara, from Big Japan Pro Wrestling. It's Fuminori Abe taking on the debuting Devil Murasaki. And Devil Murasaki is the new mass member of Purple Haze, identity unknown. But Dylan, do you have the inside scoop? Who is Devil Murasaki? Do you know?
I know exactly who it is. I can tell right away that it was clearly Buff Bagwell.
That'd be interesting to watch. His Bagwell became a junior heavyweight in All Japan.
We haven't seen him in so long. He's dropped a lot of weight. Okay, you don't know what he's been doing.
We don't. Because if it turns out it's Buff Bagwell, you can do the victory laps on Twitter all day, every day. The next match is probably the match I'm not looking forward to watching because it features someone I fucking hate, and that's one of the Brahmin brothers, and that's Brahmin K. I don't know, if he's shittier than his brother. What's it, Brahmin Shu?
Shu,
yeah. Fuck both of them. They fucking stink, okay? Why this fucking guy is in this tournament, I have no fucking clue, but I just know it's going to fucking suck, even though he's in with a wrestler that I like in Izanagi. But Izanagi with Brahmin K, it's probably going to be like stupid comedy fucking bullshit wrestling, and it's going to absolutely fucking suck.
Yeah, I mean, I said Tajiri was one of my least favorite wrestlers earlier, but at least he was good at some point. Brahmin K, why would you have one Brahmin and not the other? Whose idea was this again? It seems like to me, all of these guys' booking ideas, Shuji and Tajiri for All Japan, is to bring in really random, sleazy indie guys. That's their entire catalog. They brought in, whether it's Jun Kasai, Brahmin K, it's like guys from the underground. It's like, what are they doing right now? This makes no sense. Literally anyone would have been better, I feel like, than him, because his whole act, even if you're a fan of his, is as completely dependent on him as a team. So who's thought this was a good idea to bring him in? It could have been anybody else. So
you know who thinks it's a good idea? All the German wrestling fans, and you know who I'm talking about, who love things like the fucking Brahmin brothers.
Well, let's leave them all out of this. Okay, I'm trying to say so. I'm dropping facts right now. I'm dropping knowledge, and you're bringing up these other people. Like I don't know.
The other person who's gonna love this is fucking my good friend, Macho Outlaw Joey Bay. I know he probably loves the fucking Brahmin Brothers. He's listening to this. He's like, WH, what's wrong with the Brahmin Brothers? You know what's wrong with the Brahmin Brothers? Same thing wrong with everything else. That shit in Big Japan Wrestling. And like, fucking Abdullah, fucking Ryota Hama. It's garbage. Fuck all that shit. Fuck the Brahmin Brothers. It's gonna be shit.
Is he even a Big Japan guy? I always associate him more with like Michinoku Pro. No, not him. I'm talking about Brahmin K. I was saying, is he even a Big Japan guy?
Yeah, they've like infected that place with their bullshit, their bowling balls.
Yeah, I know they've been, but I'm just saying, shout out to Joey Bay, first of all. I may not like Brahmin K, but I've always got time for Joey Bay.
Me too. I love you, Joey. You're listening to this. I know he's like you. He's like an honorary member of Post Wrestling via this show. So he's also, permanent, like rotating co-host of this show as well, along with you. But the last match that we're going to talk about for this tournament, Dylan, this match I'm actually quite excited about. It's El Lindemann. I think he's like the 0-1 junior heavyweight champion. He's signed to Glee. Striga made a mention about this on Twitter. Got a shout out to Striga there. But he's going to be fighting. He's going to be in this All Japan tournament, which I fucking love. El Lindemann is so awesome. And he's going to fight the kind of the very underrated, talented, but always looks like he's like a deer in headlights, Rising Hayato, which should be a very fun match.
I love El Lindemann. I hope he actually wins the tournament, to be honest with you, because he's awesome. I love what he brings to the table. So charismatic. I hope the final is somehow. I don't even know if this is possible considering the brackets, but somehow they need to rearrange it to where him and Abe are the finals. So they're my two guys. I hope one of them at least end up winning. They'll at least be in the semifinals. So very happy to see Lindemann again. An opportunity to learn from for the young Rising Hayato. This is a guy everybody can learn something from, I feel like, because he's a very complete worker. So easy to watch and can do great in any situation against pretty much any worker. Even against Brahmin K, he wouldn't be that bad, I think. And I'm probably going to have that tested to look like an idiot by the time
we'll find out.
This match happens. But I'm saying, this is my prediction. It could be the best Brahmin K singles match of his career since the Sailor Boys.
Yeah. Can I just ask you something, Dylan? Rising Hayato, what's with this guy's entrance gear? Like, he looks like he's fucking from some fucking anime like Beyblade or some shit like that.
Hey, I watched Beyblade at some point. I think I saw it on the air, and I was like, wow, like they're showing this on TV. But that I could definitely buy that. I could definitely buy that. He could be a huge fan. Maybe he could be like a Yu-Gi-Oh type of fan as well. He's what was they called it Vrains, like the latest version of Yu-Gi-Oh. That's what he's a big fan of, Yu-Gi-Oh Vrains.
And that's what his like maybe entrance gear is inspired by, because he's a big fucking nerd. Okay,
absolutely.
That's cool. Like,
hey, the Yu-Gi-Oh residents stay strong in NXT. Ronnie Mendoza, he used to be known as Genzo when he was in Japan and Mexico. So Genzo is a card in Yu-Gi-Oh as well. So the Yu-Gi-Oh representing right now, I think Hayato is he's not probably inspired by it directly. He's inspired by it in spirit, though.
Well, maybe not directly, because then he'd get like some copyright trouble. But anyways,
it's kind of like how Kotaro, he can do all the Gundam stuff.
That's right. Well, he's kind of. We'll get to Kotaro a bit in when we talked about CyberFight and Pro Wrestling Noah. But we'll close off our All Japan discussion with the news that Yuko Miyamoto, Dylan, he's coming back to All Japan. He's gonna challenge Shuji Ishikawa for the Gara TV Championship. And I got to ask you, do you think this is going to be another hardcore match? But I could ask you that, but it's a rhetorical question, because I don't fucking care, because I hate that fucking belt. It's so stupid and it's so ugly.
it's not the most prestigious, I think one could argue. But again, this is what I'm talking about. It's like Shuji, I feel like it's just booking to get his rocks off, I feel like, with All Japan. And it really makes it hard for me to even like this company at all, because we saw what happened with Jun Kasai in March, and not to mention the one with Yoshitatsu and Jun Kasai, which is even worse. Then you see him put himself over all the top stars in the Champion Carnival. And now another hardcore indie sleazy guy, like from 666 in. And Miyamoto's a good worker. It's not like I'm so upset that he's coming in, but it's like another hardcore, deathmatch type of guy to do whatever Shuji wants to do just because he's not a champion right now. So it's like he's just doing what makes him happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm probably not going to watch this. You're just going to watch this? Joey Bay. But what about that belt? That belt is god fucking ugly.
The belt's off. Like there's no question that the design, it's like something I would have won in my old promotion. It's so ugly. IWA Mid-South had better looking belts than this piece of shit. Don't praise IWA Mid-South. No, I'm saying though, like a company run by fucking Ian Rotten had better fucking looking belts than the Garo TV Championship. That's just how bad this belt looks. But anyways, that's All Japan. I'm looking forward to most of the Junior Battle for Glory. Not all of it, most of it. And I'm definitely not looking forward to any Garo TV Championship title match. It's interesting, like this tournament, to be honest with you, even though I'm not a fan. Like there are a couple of guys here that I never want to see wrestle under any circumstances. But then there's guys who are awesome. And then there's guys who are different. And then it's like there are young guys on the come up. I actually, on paper, I really like it, to be honest with you, because there's so much different stuff going on. Again, it's like you have these terrible people. Brahman K, for as terrible as I think he is, and as garbage as all of his career has been pretty much, who would have thought that he would have been in a singles junior heavyweight tournament in All Japan? That's at least something so crazy and random that I could kind of get into it. Sugi, I've always loved him. As I said, Aoyagi, that's a great stylistic matchup. Hayato gets a chance. Dan Tamura, another great stylistic matchup. So it's like the tournament itself, even though there are certain parts that I don't like, it kind of works. Like even the parts I don't like, I actually kind of am okay with. So I'm probably going to enjoy watching this tournament. And who knows, it could all come apart. It could be a Tajiri versus Brahman K final, in which case I may not have a lot of nice things to say. But otherwise, I think I'm going to enjoy it. I think it's going to be good. Everybody should check it out.
If that's what happens, Dylan, we're definitely going to have a special show just talking about that final, you and me. Before we get to our last topic, which will be talking about CyberFight, and particularly the CyberFight Festival that's coming up in June. I want to take a bit of an interlude and talk about COVID-19, how it's been affecting Japan, particularly the pro scene, especially like some of these other companies that we don't necessarily talk about that often on this show. And it's COVID's been hitting, like, not just New Japan, it's been hitting a lot of the companies, especially with people, getting infected, unfortunately. For example, in Dragon Gate, Ben K, they announced that he tested positive, and like he's got to forfeit all of the matches he has left in the King of Gate tournament, which is like, it's like one of their big tours of their calendar year. So this really could possibly affect like the outcome of the tournament, because like I can see Ben K being someone who they would maybe want to push to either the finals or to win the whole thing. But not only him, but like Naruki Doi, who I don't want to say has been infected or test positive, because he hasn't, but he was in close contact with Ben K to the point where they felt, okay, we're going to pull him from the shows as a precaution, and good for Dragon Gate for doing that. But I think he has to forfeit a lot of his King of Gate matches, if not all of the rest of what he had left.
Yeah, they're both out. I think Doi, especially, he was actually my prediction to win the whole tournament because they had Yoshino's retirement coming up in a couple of months, and I thought him winning would be a great storyline. Ben K, love him. I think he's a great worker. That block has been decimated, A block, so who knows what they're going to do. They have BB Hulk, Diamante is in there. So it's like, they've got some, it was a big blow, to say the least, for that block. But maybe they can pull out. It's only one block, thankfully. The tournament's still going to continue for now, unless something, it's kind of an emergency or something. It feels like everything has been sorted out. They've been as safe as possible about it. But yeah, I completely agree with you. COVID's definitely had a big impact, and it sucks because I've been covering this tournament on the Eastern Lariat Patreon, and I've watched every match. It's a good tournament, honestly. There's a lot of good stuff going on. And losing a guy like Ben K is a huge blow in my book, and Doi is a legacy guy. So it really sucked that ended up happening, but hopefully they can make the best of it. Dragon Gate's one of the better booked companies, I feel like, in Japan. So if anybody's going to be able to get around it, I think they can.
And final note about, positive tests is that Big Japan's Kazuki Hashimoto has also tested positive, and he's in isolation and getting treatment to recover as soon as possible. And thoughts out to Benkei, Noriki Doi, and Kazuki Hashimoto. This is really terrible. Like it's one thing, like you get it, and you can have a support from a big conglomerate type of company like New Japan. I would hope that Big Japan is taking care of Hashimoto, that Dragon Gate is taking care of Doi and Benkei, giving them as much support as possible, because probably more than likely they got infected on one of because of their work.
That's a great point. Everything I know about Dragon Gate is that it's kind of like a mom and pop operation almost. And like in a good way, though. It's like everybody does something to help out. BB Hulk or whatever will be doing the designs for everything. Somebody else will be doing this other thing. And it's like everybody kind of does something and pitches in. So hopefully they're taken care of. Big Japan, I'm not as confident about, to be honest with you. But get well soon, Keihash, man. I've always been a big fan of his. As well, and anybody, even if I'm not a fan of them, even if they're like the worst worker ever, I wouldn't wish this on anybody. So hopefully everybody can get sorted out. Hopefully they can just be healthy. That's the main thing, and it's not anything that lingers on too long. It feels like they're being as safe as possible with them, but those guys are all in my thoughts, as well as anybody infected with this just horrible virus.
Let's move on to our last topic. We're going to talk about the CyberFight. We're going to talk about the promotions under that umbrella. We're going to talk about their big show coming up. But first, before we get to anything about CyberFight Festival, Dylan, let me ask you, what were your thoughts on the latest junior heavyweight unit shakeup in pro wrestling? No, it seems like it's been the 20th since February. Momo Seishu Tag just added Hajime Ohara to their ranks, and so it's it's Daisuke Harada, it's Asushi Kotoge, it's Hajime Ohara, and who's the other member? It's Junta Miyawaki, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good unit. I'm pretty happy with that. Every other unit is kind of up and down for me, because you mix the Rattels in pretty much every other unit, and me, I hate the fucking Rattels.
I practically wrote the book on hating the Rattels, so we're kindred spirits on this. Yohei is one of my least favorite wrestlers. Again, much like Tajiri. Any of these indie guys leave a lot to be desired. Although honestly, it's I know, I've never said that they don't have a place in Noah, because I know they have a fan base. I know that there are some people that like them for whatever reason. I can't understand it. It's not for me, but it's for other people. So I respect that. But for me as a fan, there's not a better unit, I don't think, possible than Momono Seishu Tag. I love all of these guys. These are literally some of my favorite wrestlers. Kotoge, Harada, and Ohara. Kotoge and Harada, they're so good. I love both of them so much. It's interesting what they did with their crazy shakeups in terms of Yoshioka was the champion, and he dropped the belt right to Kotoge for some reason. I was like, eh. And then it was Kotoge had a pretty, a way above expected match with Neo Hiroki. So I was like, oh yeah, Kotoge's awesome. So I was like, okay, I'm so happy this happened. And to see Ohara there, they can set up something interesting for him now. In the tag ranks, they can do something a little different instead of just having Kotoge and Harada team again. So I love it. I love the faction. Everything else, it's like a necessary evil, but there's still a lot of talent. Yeah, they spread it out. Some of these like Hayata and Yohei and all of this, but everyone else, there's a lot of talent there. It's unfortunate that they're booked in such a joke of a way that everybody just makes fun of them now because they turn and there's so much chaos. The junior division needs stability. Like, never mind the IWGP title, the junior division in Noah definitely needs something to be a stabilizing force, but it feels like it's impossible with the current booking regime.
Yeah. Well, I think this is probably one of the better things that they did was like making this quartet of like Kotoge, Harada, Miyawaki, and Hajime Ohara, who I've been a huge fan of this guy ever since he joined Noah. Even before then, when he's like Dragon System guy, with Kazuchika Okada. Though I hear there's a big falling out between those 2 years ago, but like I think this is very great. I loved if you can find the show where they formed the unit where like Ohara gets kicked out by like his other group, which I forget what it was, Full Throttle, whatever, and then Kotoge looks at Harada, says, "Can we take him in?" And Harada's like, "Okay, let's take him." And they hug. It was really nice. I like the way they did that. It's one of those feel good moments that you can get in wrestling that makes you happy to be a fan of, especially Japanese wrestling.
I just wish that they would have, like, again, if they hadn't have done so much of this and this had been drawn out a lot more, that could have been like a legendary moment. I feel like, if something like that happened, like Ohara finally joining back up with Kotoge, just like Kotoge joined up with Harada. But as it is, it's like this is going to get overshadowed by another turn in like a week. It feels like, like that was like, in terms of their acting and how they pulled it off, that was a great moment. Like you said, everybody should go back and watch it. It was awesome. But unfortunately, the way things are right now, it's like there's so much of a mess. If they just gave stuff a chance to breathe, you have amazing talents. Like all three of those guys, to me, are world class in terms of wrestling and personality. Harada, I would probably say, is the less of the personality, maybe the strongest in the wrestling, and so on and so forth. But everybody's great at pretty much everything. And if they just let them do their thing, they could have, like, to me, that's the thing that always made me like Noah better than something like a New Japan, is their junior division means so much more than all the other normal companies, or at least not the normal companies, but, the mainstream companies, so like big three. Their junior division was always the best one and the most valued. And now it's like, it's breaking my heart what they're doing. Like, it's like when New Japan, like, that's the thing, like New Japan, the thing I loved most about them when I first started watching was the junior heavyweights. It wasn't the heavyweights. It was Kanemoto, Otani, Liger. And then it's like you see them, then they're like a total non-entity now, and it irritates me so much. And with Noah now, it's like and the thing is, they have the guys. It's not a question of that. It's not like it's some weak roster. It's a great roster, but they just, why do things have to be so reckless right now with Noah?
Well, I mean, Nosawa Rangai is cut from the same cloth as Geto, Jado, and Dick Toko, sleazy indie wrestler, junior heavyweight guy who doesn't know how to book junior heavyweights or tag teams. So, it's just like this infection that's happened in ProRes in the last, 10, 15 years, Dylan.
Have him go there then. Like, have him go join up with his buddies.
Listen, just send all these fucking guys to fucking Dove Pro and just have them disappear from my fucking existence, my periphery, as it were. But enough of that. Let's go to the big show that's coming up 2 weeks from today, June 6th, I believe, at Saitama Super Arena. It's CyberFight Festival. It's going to be all the promotions under the CyberFight umbrella. Pro Wrestling DDT, Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling Noah, and my favorite company, the best one, Gambare Pro Wrestling Dylan, and they'll all have matches on this really massive show that I think is going to do really well for them if they don't get fucked by COVID.
Well, it's hard to say right now when it comes to that. I mean, anything could happen. Again, I don't really know the situation enough to really say anything, but from how things are playing out, it seems like it's going to happen one way or the other, it feels like. But there's a lot of matches on the show. It feels like it should be a big deal when it comes to that. And hopefully they can get it off safely. And there's nobody. That's definitely a big worry that somebody big could get infected. And I pray that does not happen. But hopefully we can get the show how it's intended to be seen.
Let's go through the matches. Let's do kind of a quick preview of this card. I'm gonna let you carry a lot of this because you probably watch more of the TJPW and DDT than I do. But let's start with there's a 10-woman tag team match to start this off. Let's go through the participants. Go ahead, Dylan.
That's right. It's Mirai, Mayumi, Suzume, Haraneko, Moka Miyamoto, and Arisu Endo versus Nao Kakuta, Raku, Pam Harajuku, Mahiro, Kiryu, and X, or TBA.
It's Shelton Benjamin?
That's right. Shelton X is back. I think he's still employed with WWE, so it can't be him. But the main thing about this is these are all kind of like the younger talents in Tokyo Joshi Pro, and a lot of them have a lot of talents. I think Endo is very new, but she's shown a lot of good things. Suzume, ton of talent. Raku and Neko, Pam Harajuku, they're more like comedy gimmicks. Kiryu's a solid worker. Mayumi's looked good in her short run, but these are all really young wrestlers, and just to get them a little bit of a spotlight to start the show off. It'll all be about who X is. I hope that it's Reika Saiki, but former TJP star who's not really been doing anything since Wrestle 1 closed down. But it'll basically be around whoever that is. But that's my prediction. My hope is Reika Saiki.
Okay, and then the second match is going to be what they call the starting Battle Rumble with a Battle Rumble rules match. And
doesn't that sound like a badass match name? Though I love that Battle Rumble. Yeah, I'm into that.
Well, I mean, sure, but then I look at some of the participants, like Antonio Honda and Toru Iwashi, who's more or less a comedy wrestler now. Like, then I don't really think too much of it. But let's go through the people. The most interesting is legendary wrestler Yoshiaki Yatsu. He's returning after having his leg unfortunately amputated, but he got a prosthetic, and he did this great video where he was showing off how great his headlock is, even with the new prosthetic. And shout outs to Jamesy. It just reminded me of the awesome Boots and Trunks podcast episode talking just about headlocks. All I thought about was that episode when I saw Yoshiaki Yatsu apply it with his new prosthetic, and I'm curious to see how he does with the prosthetic. And you know what, if it's not a hindrance, people with prosthetics wrestle. Go ahead, why not?
Wrestling should be for anybody who wants to do it, and you can work things around in different ways. At the end of the day, and this is just like a comedy match anyway. So I mean, like literally anybody can probably be in this and succeed. Like even if you wanted to be in the match WH, I think you could probably work a spot in there and do all right.
I would probably be a better worker than fucking Antonio Honda.
But could you tell the entirety of the Gon the Fox story?
Yes, I could.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
just peppered with a lot of profanity. That's all.
Well, that's not. Well, I mean, I guess technically you'll fit in with DDT. A lot of their stuff is like X-rated or whatever. So you could definitely be his tag team partner now, I think is what you're advocating for.
All right. So who else? We got Toru Iwashi, Kazuki Harada. I don't know who's he.
He's the guy who does the Tokyo Go gimmick with the glasses.
All right, he's a comedy guy.
I like him though. I think I don't know about you, WH, but I was a huge fan of Magnum Tokyo. So when I see this gimmick, it always makes me laugh.
This guy. Okay, yeah. He's all right. Yeah. I love listen, M2K, Magnum Tokyo, fucking loved it. What is it? Then he formed. I think M2K Magnum Tokyo is better than Do Fixer Magnum Tokyo, and definitely better than Pause Hearts fucking Magnum Tokyo.
Well, yeah, that's definitely better than Pause Hearts Magnum Tokyo. I totally agree with you there. But I like him a lot. I was always a huge fan of his. Even all the way to the very end in Hustle, where he was a detective character, Detective Alan Kuroki. I thought he was awesome and all of that. So Hirata's good though. He's probably gonna be all comedy, but when he does get the chance to wrestle, he's actually kind of good at it. So he's somebody I always say is underrated. But hopefully he has a good spot. And I'll always pop for the Tokyo Go song that Magnum Tokyo's deal.
Makoto Oishi,
good worker.
Good work. He's all right.
I like him.
He's teaming with Akiyama a lot recently, yeah?
Yeah, he's one of the better workers, I feel like, on the roster in terms of like technical wrestling and telling stories and stuff like that. I've seen this guy forever. He was in K-Dojo, 15 years ago and stuff like that. And he's one of the more solid wrestlers. He'll probably get dragged to some comedy stuff, though, unfortunately. But he's good. Like, I like him.
Saki Akai, who's actually getting, I think, really, steady push. Part of Eruption and like just doing a lot of tons of wrestling, not just she's a Joshi wrestler, but she does a lot of intergender wrestling. So she's one of the more prominent, I feel like, members of the mid card, and I think it seems like they're very high on her to like just trying to push her higher up on the DDT roster there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. Clearly somebody that they value and has a valuable spot on the roster as well. So she's improved a lot over the years. She would have been like Tajiri level 5 years ago for me, but she's actually improved a lot. So I'm happy she gets a spot on the show.
Antonio Honda, the aforementioned, Antonio Honda, enough said about him.
Tell some stories.
Here's a favorite of you and me here, Dylan. Yusuke Okada. He's doing very well since he's left All Japan and joined DDT. I can see him, like doing pretty well. Yeah, and he's good with the comedy too.
Okada can do anything in wrestling. I feel like he's a guy, like, literally from his first match, I've been watching him, and as soon as he walked out, I knew he was special. I always thought he could be a top star wherever he went, and he's gotten a very strong push in DDT. I hate that he's not in the tournament next month, and I hate that he's not in a bigger match on this show, especially when you see some of the other matches and some people that aren't on the show. Like, there were some spots that he could have been a great use of. Instead, he's in this dumb battle royal.
Yuya Kuroku, I'm not familiar with him or her. Is it her?
No.
Is it him?
Yeah.
Okay. Your voice tells me everything I need to know. One of my least favorites, because I think he's super overrated. That's Yuji Hino. Him and his belly button are in this. I can he do comedy? I don't know. Yuna Manase. Shout out Yuna Manase. She's just in she was in the Stardom anniversary show. She's gone back to AJPW, it seems. Inoffensive to me. And finally, so like the last participant that they've announced so far, Shu Sakurai. What can you tell me about Shu Sakurai here?
Very little, to be honest with you. It's like people like that in this Kuroko, I really don't know that much about. I'm not going to lie to you. I wish I could tell you more. I was really just doing that as a gimmick, to be honest with you. On Kuroko, I don't know anything about whoever that is, to be honest with you.
Well, that's the second match. And third match, 6-man tag team match, Ken Oka, Keisuke Ishii, and Shota take on Shuichiro Katsumura, Koki Iwasaki, and Uehito Imanari. What can you tell me about this match? This sounds like a DDT match.
It's actually a Ganbare Pro match.
I should have known that. It's my favorite promotion, Jalen.
Yeah. See, come on now. You've been exposed right now on the show. Right now, at least I can admit that Shu Sakurai is not one of my favorites that I know a lot about. But I will admit that I do know about these guys here, where I am a big fan of Koki Iwasaki and Keisuke Ishii. Shota and Imanari are pretty good. Katsumura and Oka are an acquired taste at best, but have been praised by the Ganbare Pro fan base. And Oka is kind of like the president or whatever of Ganbare Pro, so he's kind of like their version of Sanshiro Takagi. More or less, kind of. Can
I just tell everyone how much I fucking hate Sanshiro Takagi? I think he's fucking shit. He's smart man. I applaud his business sense, his acumen in turning DDT into the fucking success it is. But God, he's shit in the ring.
We could talk about him in his match. Let's talk about Ken Oka. What do you think about Ken Oka? That's what I want to know.
I can't recall ever seeing Ken Oka match. I'm sure I have. I just don't. None of these guys, like Keisuke Ishii, is like the only one whose name I recognize and can say I remember seeing a match of his.
I think you would like Iwasaki. Like he's another of that ilk, like a good technical wrestler, hits hard, like that kind of deal.
All right, you know what, Dylan? Because you said that, I'm gonna go search out some of his stuff. But number 4, this looks interesting. 6-man tag team match: DDT versus Pro Wrestling Noah, Yuki Keigo Nakamura, Toei Kojima taking on Junta Miyawaki, Kinya Okada, and Yasutaka Yano, like the kind of the young boys of like DDT versus the young boys of Pro Wrestling Noah here.
Yeah, you could say that. I think that you see a match like this, Okada can stand out a lot. I think he's someone that has a lot to gain. Yano, he's really young. It's kind of like this could be a good match. These guys are going to be hungry, and I think they're going to do good stuff. Ino's coming off of an injury, so it's going to be interesting to see that when they come in.
Let's go to match 5. You introduce us to this match here. Match number 5 with Damnation.
Damnation, Daisuke Sasaki, Tetsuya Endo, and Soma Takao. They are facing Chris Brooks and Sonic Club, or 37 Kamina, as it's written in English, but that's what it means. Like they have a thing in Japan where it's like you spell stuff out with numbers, and 37 is like sauna. So it's Shunma Katsumata and Mao, and this is not a match for me, to be honest with you. You
forgot to mention that they're outside. Seconding Damnation is the incredible Matt Pauly.
Great. How can I forget Matt Pauly? Of course. What was I thinking? So to describe these guys, it's like Sasaki. His nickname is the Charisma, and he's known for his promos more than his wrestling. He's like a crazy character worker. He's kind of like the leader of the group, although Endo is pushed more as the actual wrestler. And Endo's like a high flyer guy. He does a lot of flips and stuff like that. He was a champion last year, actually, so he was a big star for them. Sasaki is a former champion. Endo's like if you really like high flying wrestling, he's there. Sasaki, he's a great talker. Soma, he's like mid tier at everything would be how I would describe him. Like he's okay at literally all aspects of wrestling. Is how I would describe him. Brooks, I think he's very popular on Twitter. Everybody probably knows him. And Shunma, he's a guy who's done all kinds of stuff over the past year. He's worked death matches. He's had a Joker gimmick. Worked with Legos, and he's a good, charismatic, flying wrestler in this. I doubt any of that stuff happens in this match, but who knows? Damnation, they're a super heel team, so there could be interference, there could be weapons, that kind of thing. Mao, he's a crazy guy who flies a lot, just like Katsumata, so they're a stylistically good match, along with Brooks. But for me, I'm not into any of these guys, to be honest with you. Shunma is probably my favorite of everybody. He's the one to watch, in my opinion.
Number 6, a Joshi match, a 3-way tag team match. Let's talk about the participants. Go ahead, Dylan.
Daydream, Rika Tatsumi and Miyu Watanabe versus Shoko Nakajima and Hyper Misao versus the Bakuretsu sisters, Nodoka Tenma and Yuki Aino. And I love the Bakuretsu sisters. They're one of my favorite acts in Tokyo Joshi Pro. And Tenma in particular stands out big for me. Just a great, unique look. Good wrestling. They're a natural team. Love them. Daydream, again, if this were Daydream versus Bakuretsu sisters, I think this match could be a potential sleeper candidate for the show. Tatsumi just came off of a shocking run as champion. It was like nobody thought she would win the title, but then she actually won the title. And she had a very good reign. I had to drop it before the show. I guess she didn't have to, but they did. And Miyu Watanabe is a very good young wrestler as well. So that would be a great match. Shoko Nakajima is one of the best workers in Tokyo Joshi Pro. You've probably seen her if you're a fan of AEW. She's very small, very charismatic. She's like a spark plug type of wrestler, super energetic. Hyper Misao is a comedic wrestler who is a superhero. So you're going to see that. It's kind of like, she watched like the Hurricane in videos of him and just kind of modeled herself after that to an nth degree in Tokyo Joshi Pro. So there's going to be a lot of comedy in this match with Misao and Nakajima. They had a feud where Nakajima became Misao's partner and became a superhero as well. So it's like there's going to be some comedy stuff in this match. But if you can see Daydream and Bakuretsu sisters, or if Shoko and Hyper Misao want to get in on the action and actually wrestle, because Misao's a pretty decent wrestler too when she tries, this could be a good match. But we'll see what happens.
Number 7, 6-woman tag team match: Hikari Noa, Mizuki, and Yuki Arai versus Maki Ito, Yuki Kamifuku, and Marika Kobashi. I'm familiar with some of the names here. What can you tell me about this match, Dylan?
Yeah, this could be an interesting match on paper when you look at it. Again, I think that a lot of people will know Mizuki because she got a lot of props last year for her big title match versus Yuka Sakazaki. That a lot of people thought was like a match of the year level match. Maki Ito, probably the most famous person on the Tokyo Joshi Pro roster. Everybody will know her again. She had an AEW run. I don't think that was that well received actually by a lot of their fans. But if you know of her, you know she has a lot of fans. She's very popular. Along with Yuki Kamifuku, she was the mid-card champion of Tokyo Joshi Pro this year, the International Princess Champion. She's kind of like a supermodel, like idol type of wrestler. And formerly came out to Old MacDonald Had a Farm, which was the main thing she was known for. But she's changed all that now and really upgraded her look. She's like
still wear the jean shorts.
No.
Oh,
she has normal gear.
That's good. Like I just thought that's so, you know, indie.
Her gimmick was that she was like an American, and so like she came from a farm in America.
It's weird.
It wasn't the best. Let's just put it that way. But she's moved on from all that now. Like I said, she's like an idol type of deal now. And she is in real life too. She's like a model in real life. Hikari Noah, again, she's a part of the Up Girls in Noah, which is like an idol singing group as well. And Yuki Arai is from an idol group, SKE48. So she's a big project for Tokyo Joshi Pro. So it's kind of like the idols, and then they put one wrestler on each team with Mizuki and Marika Kobashi. Like they're going to be the ones that handle the in-ring work, and they're both very talented wrestlers. But the idols are all in here, and Noah is a very talented wrestler as well. The others are okay. Arai is like a complete wild card. She's very new. But the others are okay. But Mizuki and Kobashi are the ones you want to watch in this match.
All right, so match 8 is a pure Pro Wrestling Noah tag match. It's a 6-man junior tag team match. It's Momo no Seishun tag, Asushi Kotoge, Daisuke Rada, and Hajime Ohara taking on the team of Stinger, Yoshinari Agawa, Hayata, and Seiki Yoshioka. This should be actually a pretty good match.
Yeah, it is, but here's my problem with it. Like, we're going to see this.
Hayata's in it?
No, I mean, yes, but like more importantly, like this is a match we're going to see a bunch of times anyway in Noah. So like this is what I don't like about some of the matches on this card. It's like the matches where guys are facing each other. This is a match again. We're going to see this exact same match multiple times this year. There's nothing special about it at all. So wouldn't it have been smarter to give a standout match to these guys and make it a DDT versus Noah match? To me, they really dropped the ball at times with not having enough Noah and DDT interaction, because a match like this, I love Momono Seishun. Like, if you ask me my 3 favorite guys on this card, if those aren't the top 3, they're 3 of the top 4. Like you know, like pretty much when it comes to the male wrestlers. But like, there's nothing about this match that captures my imagination at all. It's like we've seen combinations of this over and over, and the only difference is Yoshioka's and Stinger now. Great. Well, I mean, that'll probably be the main focus of this match. Yoshioka and Ohara were in the same faction, Full Throttle, with Yohei, and they split them up on opposite sides, and that's probably going to add some drama to this. But to me, it's like there's nothing special about this match at all, in my opinion.
Okay, match number 9. This should be interesting. DDT versus Congo, the all red faction of Pro Wrestling Noah. So DDT is represented by Senshiro Takagi, the president of DDT, the Stone Cold Steve Austin ripoff wrestler, cosplayer, Akito Kazusada Higuchi, great wrestler, Yukio Sakaguchi, good wrestler. They're a tag team in Eruption. Naomi Yoshimura, Yukio Naya, and Hideki Okatani. And they're going to take on the team of Congo: Keno, Katsuhiko Nakajima, Masa Kitamiya, Manabu Soya, Hao, Neo, and the fucking shit Tadasuke.
Yeah, this is like the turning point of the card to me. It's like the undercard matches, all we've done at this point are not that exciting, to be honest with you. But then you see a match like this, and it's at least something different. The talent is a big mixed bag, as it is destined to be at a 14-man tag match, but it's at least something different. And it's, again, this is something I always say. It's like, I don't understand why they've kept the promotions apart so much, to where like this could have been a heated feud and has technically almost a year of buildup, but they went away from it for so long. Takagi, though, like that's the thing. It's like it's destined for comedy. I feel like this match, unfortunately. But there's a lot of talented guys in here. Akito, I love his work. I think he's one of the best workers in DDT. Great technician, will work a mat-based style. Higuchi, big power guy. He's going to do some big stuff. He's going to hit you hard. Yoshimura, same deal, another power guy. Great worker. Really love his team with Yuki Ueno. Sakaguchi, technical wrestler, MMA background. He's really good. Okatani, a fiery rookie. Naya, I don't really like that much, but he's like a former sumo wrestler. He'll be fine in his role. Like it's the seventh guy or the sixth guy of a team, he's fine. Takagi, though, I feel like could overshadow this whole match. Congo team, Keno, he is just coming off of COVID, and it looks like he's going to be good to go for this match. So great news for him. Keno really impressed me earlier this year. I'm usually not as big of a fan of his, but I think the last year or so he's really turned a corner. Nakajima, I think everybody kind of knows him. Very charismatic guy, kicks hard. Keno and Nakajima will kick guys, and that will be a lot of fun. Kitami and Soya, two powerhouse guys. Kitami is coming off of a title shot he had versus Keiji Muto. Hao, Neo, Tadasuke are the junior members of the faction, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of them eats the fall, if not Okatani. They have the lost post on each team with Okatani and Neo, so that's kind of interesting. But Hao is a really good worker, actually, now that I think about it. He's somebody that's is like a grassroots fan base in Noah. Really good junior heavyweight wrestler. He's not really pushed that much, but he's a guy you can always count on. Neo, the former Hiroki, or High 69, again with the numbers, like 37 Kamina. But he's Neo now, and he's like a long-time indie guy that Noah brought in a few years ago. And Tadasuke, another indie guy, former Rattel's member who WH doesn't like, but it's mostly because of his hair that's really bad, to be honest with you. He has probably one of the worst.
He does a really bad Samson Fuyuki like cosplay gimmick, and I'm not a fan of it.
I thought he reminded me when I first saw his hair of like Ricky Fuji or something like that.
See the way he wrestles, he does a lot of Fuyuki spots, like the running train.
How is he a junior? like this guy looks like he's 220. I don't know,
dude. His height, maybe it's because he's short. I don't know. But anyways, let's get to the last four matches.
This is where the card's about to pick up. By the way,
definitely this match, the DDT versus Noah tag team matches. When this was announced, it got a lot of buzz, rightfully so. Konosuke Takeshita, Yuki Ueno representing DDT, taking on the Pro Wrestling Noah team of Kaito Kiyomiya and Yoshiki Inamura. This has a lot of potential to be maybe match of the night if given enough time and everyone's firing on all cylinders.
I think one of the next three matches are going to be the match of the night. I think this one has a very good chance to be it. In fact, Ueno, he has been one of my absolute favorite wrestlers to watch this year of any company. A shining light in DDT. And DDT, if you listen to my Patreon shows, I'm covering the Ultimate Tag League right now. Every single match. It's not great, to be honest with you, when it comes to like pure wrestling and things like that. For the kind of fan I am, it's not always a lot of fun. But Ueno, no matter what they have him doing, Takeshi the same way. It's like these guys are just tremendous performers. And to me, these are the two best guys at DDT, honestly. Like Akiyama is like yes, as champion, but he's not really a DDT guy. These two are, and they are world class in my opinion. Kaito Kiyomiya and Inamura, I love these guys. They to me had the match of the night at Noah's Budokan show in February versus Marufuji and Akiyama. So you see guys like this, all young guys, all the futures of their respective company. To me, this is like my actual main event and the most interesting match because it's the one DDT versus Noah match that's like what I would want. If I book this has meaning. Whoever wins this match is going to gain a lot from it. It's going to say a lot about them. My prediction is that the DDT team will win. I think Inamura is going to take the fall. But Inamura did get the fall in the Budokan match, so they're clearly pushing him very well. That could be something, especially if Ueno is the one that takes the fall, as he is a champion right now at DDT, Universal Champion. So he is a guy that, all four of these guys are super talented. Inamura I feel like he's going to be the spark plug because the other guys are all like really good ace type of wrestlers. Ueno's got a little bit of the junior style mixed in a little bit more. but Inamura is going to be the one guy that's going to wreck stuff and be a powerhouse and be awesome. So I love this matchup on paper.
Yeah, I think it's probably the match I'm the most excited about as well. Next match is from Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling. It's their championship match, the Princess of Princesses championship match. Miyu Yamashita, great wrestler, great shoot style, striker wrestler. She's the champion, and she's going to take on the challenge of Yuka Sakazaki, who I'm sure many AEW fans are familiar with.
Yamashita representing her UWF style match that she got announced for too, in GLEAT in the future. So Yamashita, amazing worker, as you said, completely agree. To me, pretty easily the best wrestler in Tokyo Joshi Pro, to be honest, in terms of an in-ring performer. But Sakazaki is not that far behind. She had, again, her match with Mizuki last year was incredible, and everyone loved it. And she is going to be a great stylistic counterbalance to Yamashita's style. I think you could tell a really good, fiery, working from understory with Sakazaki. So she's the one that you would want to do that, and they're going to have a banger of a match. This is one of my favorite matches as well. Like I said, one of these, this match, the match before to the match after it, is going to be the match of the night. I would bet money on it, and this has a chance. I'm more excited about the tag match because of the interpromotional aspect, but this is a match you want to keep your eyes on because it could be great.
Yeah, I think it's again one of the matches. Like I'm not a regular watcher of TJPW, but like Miyu Yamashita and Yuka Sasaki are like two wrestlers who I thoroughly enjoy watching when I do get to watch their matches, and I'm very excited about to see this match. Number 12, the semi-main event, the KOD Openweight Championship. Current champion Jun Akiyama would take on DDT legend Harashima.
Yeah, it's a great match. On paper, Akiyama, he's one of the best in the world, even now. He had a horrible match with Denshoku Dino, who also, like, you don't listen to it, but they're going to have Dino and Super Satsudongo Machine versus somebody that's probably going to be Sugiura, which like makes me want to hurl. To be honest with you, that Sugiura spot is going to be that in all likelihood. But yeah, Akiyama and Harashima, great match. Two of the better workers at DDT. Two old veteran type of guys. Harashima's in his late 40s. Akiyama's in his early 50s, but still can go really well. And it'll be a good win for Akiyama. I don't think Harashima's going to win the title here, but still, it's a good match. One of the better ones, I think, for Akiyama style-wise in DDT.
And finally, our main event, the GHC Heavyweight Championship match. It's kind of interesting, Dylan, but like the Noah title is going to take precedence over the DDT title because CyberFight's more of a they were more known for DDT. It's like Noah's is kind of their later acquisition, but the legend Keiji Muto has to be in the main event because he just has to be, and he's defending his GHC heavyweight title against Noah legend Naomichi Marufuji. And I gotta say, Dylan, like I think this has potential to be a pretty fun match if it stays on the ground, actually, believe it or not. And they do a lot more grappling, and it doesn't go more than 15 to 17 minutes.
Yeah, I think there's a way that you could build drama around Muto in his matches. I would definitely say that his match versus Kitamiya was better than the Kaito match from the month prior. But I mean, I can't really get into him as champion because it's so hard to watch him, to be honest with you. I'm glad that I was never really a big fan of his in the first place, because if I was, I would hate this run. Even guys that are decent now, like Kenta in New Japan, if I really loved you and thought you were the greatest in the world, to see you go down to like mid-tier, a shell of what you used to be, I hate watching those kind of matches. Even if you're not that bad, and he is actually like barely able to move a lot of the times, but he tries hard and puts in a lot of effort. Marufuji, I've never really known him to be a technical wrestler, to be honest with you, or any kind of like mat worker. So I don't know what kind of goal they're going to play with this match. Again, I don't think Muto's going to lose the title here. And I think it's kind of tough, but it's possible. I think there's a better chance Marufuji would win than Harashima, but still, your mileage will vary based on what you think of Muto. If you can get around him being so old and barely able to move, then I think that you will find something in this match to like. If you're like me and you can't really get through that or get by that, then I don't think there's a lot here. And like even Marufuji as a challenger, I wasn't a big fan of, to be honest, because like even if he were to win, it's like then we've got Marufuji and Sugiura as the top champions again. It's like we've been there like a bunch of times by now. That's not really the idea of winning this match. I'm actually kind of hoping Muto wins so I can put over somebody younger later. But as a match, maybe they'll surprise me. You know, the Go match was not bad. Like with Muto, that was about the best possible match Muto could have. I feel like was against Go Shiozaki at Budokan. If they can reach that level, then it's a mission accomplished. And it wasn't any kind of match of the year to me, but that could be a mission accomplished. If you just have a solid match, like you said, they need to keep it within a reasonable time. But I don't know. Like I'm just not a huge Muto guy.
I understand. Like I have very, very, very low expectations for this match, to be honest with you. But you know, like there are times where like, hey, Muto actually had all right, he's not terrible. He's not great. He's not terrible. And you know, Marufuji can surprise you sometimes without doing any of the high flying that he used to be known for. So we'll see. I do think length is going to play a big, you know, factor for me at least about how much I'm going to enjoy this match. Like if it goes more than like 20 minutes, that's ridiculous, and it's going to suffer for it by every minute. You know,
to be fair, this is a 14 match show at the end of the day, and there's going to be some restrictions when it comes to the time limit, like one way or the other. Like they're not going to be able to be there all night. So I do think that they're like some matches are not going to be very long on this show, and if they needed to cut some time from this main event, I think that would be better for all involved. But I don't see that happening, to be honest, because I think, like, you know, this is the championship match on the show. I think, unfortunately, that is not going to be the match they look to cut for time.
Probably not. I can see them rushing through pretty much everything else on this card.
The first, like, 9 matches on the show are probably not going to go super long, I would say.
No.
What do you think of the Dino match and Sugiura? You did not respond to me when I said that, and I was not happy. It's like this deserves a rant.
Sugiura, if it's just Sugiura like beating the fucking shit out of Dino, that's fine. I agree though. Like I don't think Sugiura should be. He's the national champion. You know what I mean? Like he should have a title defense.
It's coming off like a match of the year candidate versus another old guy.
Yeah,
when he beat the hell out of him. Like that match was incredible.
He's like. You know, like it's him and Nakajima. They're the best workers in the company, right? You know, at his age, it's like it's amazing. Like he the way he looks is like someone 15 years younger than you know other people of his you know peer groups of his age. His style of wrestling is still incredibly hard hitting. Even though all the wear and tear that he's put his body through since, you know, becoming a pro wrestler, him against Dino, if that's actually what happens, it's bullshit. Yeah, it's bullshit. But
and like, it's Sasadango Machine too. It's some kind of like double tag match.
If it's him destroying those two in like 2 minutes, then okay, that's fine. Anything like where Dino gets competitive on him, fuck off. And he does any of his, and if he does his bullshit gimmick of you know sexual assaulting other men, that's what he does. He doesn't, you know, that's his whole gimmick is like he tries to, you know, touch you. Oh, it's comedy, WH. I don't think it's fucking funny anymore. I've never thought it was funny.
We just saw this versus Akiyama, and like they had a 30-minute match of this nonsense.
If it's like okay, I don't like you said.
It won't be 30.
It's not 30 minutes. Like if it is, they completely lost the plot.
It won't be 30 minutes. I'm very very confident.
But if it's like 2 minutes of Sugiura just like elbowing these guys and then and then just dropping them on their heads and then pinning them at the same time, then it's fine.
To me, it's just a huge waste of somebody like that who is such an incredible performer. To me, I think he's clearly the best worker in the company, or he's probably one of the best workers in the world in my book. You know, it's like you have guys like I'm a big fan of Momo, No Station Tag. I think they're up there. Kaito's had a lot of good matches. but Sugiura is on a completely different level. I feel like that, like pretty much everyone else in any company. So I don't understand why he was the one to take the fall, so to speak, out of everyone when he is a champion already. Maybe he wanted that match because his real life personality is kind of crazy. It's like he's like this weirdo, perverted guy in real life. So it's like maybe he saw this as some kind of opportunity, but it should have been vetoed by whoever's responsible.
And maybe everything you're saying is true. Like it's well documented in Weekly Pro Wrestling, Shoot Pro, like what a pervert like Sugiura is. Like,
Yes.
Maybe Dino's his favorite wrestler, and he just wants to be like a Dino wrestler. If that's the case, hear this. And then that's what happens, then it's going to be really sad for people like you and me, Dylan. But maybe not for the hardcore meme loving Giffer fans of fucking DDT Pro Wrestling. But anyways, this should be an interesting show. The last 4 matches definitely worth making the time to go out and watch. That's June 6th, Saitama Super Arena. I don't think this is on like any English streaming channel. I think it's going to be on Wrestle Universe.
Yeah, it'll be on Wrestle Universe.
And it'll have, I believe it'll have also English commentary.
Yeah. So, Mark and Stu Fulton, those are my guys.
That's right. Mark Pickering, always liking a lot of my things on Twitter. Shout out to Mark Pickering. Don't make any embarrassing calls like some of the people who work for New Japan Pro Wrestling, and you and I will always be okay, my friend. But otherwise, I'm looking forward to listening to their commentary for most of these matches, especially the last 4 here. And yeah, let's wrap it up there. Dylan, we've gone along, but like a long time on this episode. But hey, good discussion about all the topics and some really important, things that we got off our chests about, at the top of the hour. But let's plug the Eastern Lariat and like, what have you got coming up, and where can people find more of your work?
Yeah, I'm so thankful to be on the show with you, WH. I'm always happy to do shows with you and just hang out with you too. It's really cool stuff. And hopefully all the listeners enjoyed my guest appearance on here. If you want to hear more of me, you can check out the Eastern Lariat. It's my show I do with Striga. He is a wonderful bastion of knowledge, especially of Japanese indie wrestling and indie wrestling anywhere. He's like a true, like I said, a fountain of knowledge almost in some ways. And he and me, I love doing our shows and things we're doing. We're going to be doing a new show really soon, too, about everything going on. He's a teacher in his outside life. I have no outside life. I only know wrestling. So that's the difference between me and him. And I'm built different than most everyone else who are normal and successful. Me, I just love wrestling, and I've risked it all on many occasions for it. But we have all kinds of stuff. We cover every promotion: New Japan, Big Japan, All Japan, Noah. We cover everything on the show, much like we did on this show. So I felt like I brought a little bit of the Lariat spirit to Post Puroresu right now.
Definitely.
So yeah, we cover all that. It's not just New Japan. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Eastern Lariat, where I cover everything even more in depth when it comes to. If a show's happening, I'll watch it. I'll put a show up right there. I've done it numerous times this month. Sometimes I'll just hit you with some random stuff on there. I have a partner in crime named Big Rob McCauley. He's on Twitter at bmccooley. Very bastion of knowledge about 90s stuff would be him. Not wrestling, just stuff in general. But we have a lot of fun. We're doing all of the DDT Ultimate Tag League, the Dragon Gate shows for King of Gate, and that's led to some really cool stuff too. So it's like you get a little bit of everything on our Patreon. I have a series on the 90s that I'm doing. I haven't done the 95 show in a little bit, but I'm getting back on that soon because I really am looking forward to watching more old school wrestling. But everything, I'll watch AEW pay-per-views I did a show on, WWE pay-per-view I did a show on. Wherever there's important wrestling, I am willing to talk about it. I'm willing to watch it. And I love doing it. So thank you to everybody who supported. And also, if you do subscribe, it's close to the end of the month now. So I don't normally advise it, but this time, normally I'd say wait till the start of the month. But right now, this is the last month of it. Every cent that goes to our Patreon is actually getting donated to charity for the Stopping Anti-Asian American Hate. That is a big deal for me on a personal level and everything going on in the last few months. So if you can, sign up to the Big Hush tier. You get all kinds of cool stuff. At this point, it's like literally hundreds and hundreds of hours of content, in fact. So you get a lot of cool stuff on there. It's just $5. It goes to a good cause for this month. And if you hate me, you could just exit out at the start of next month and be fine. But please, everybody, check it out. It's a lot of fun. And check out our free shows, too. I love doing the Eastern Lariat. And hopefully everyone enjoyed this show and will check out my shows in the future.
Yes, definitely. I'm a proud supporter of the Eastern Lariat Patreon and proud owner of one of your T-shirts. Love wearing that thing. Check out their merchandise over at their Patreon as well. But yeah, let's wrap it up there. Dylan, thank you so much for joining me here on Post Perez in the second May edition episode. And next time you hear me on Post Perez, I'll be back with John Pollock, probably talking about CyberFight Festival, the results of that, and whatever else is happening in the ongoing saga that is New Japan Pro Wrestling in 2021. You can look forward to the new long and winding Royal Road that I'm going to be doing with Kay Slow from Voices of Wrestling from Open the Voice Gate, and we're going to talk about Kenta Kobashi, Dylan, one of our favorites. Like, it's going to be an awesome biography episode of the Orange Crush man himself, Kenta Kobashi. Look forward to that. And you'll be back here on this show at some point before the end of the year. I'm pretty sure about that. And you can follow me at WH Park 9. That's the number 9 for all my wonderful hot takes on people's gear, on making fun of, members of the elite, because I hate them all, and this and that. So anyways, with that being said, until next time, talk to you all next time, and goodbye.